Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It is Thursday. It's 1 p.m. where I am. It is the 22nd of July, and welcome to TheoryCraft episode 25. Can we at last say we have completed a season of TheoryCraft? Is 25 episodes a season? I mean, what's most TV shows? Most TV shows are like 12 episodes nowadays, right? This is like an old school, like a Lost, you know? Like a Prison Break, like a 24. They probably had that many episodes. Well, 24 probably had 24 episodes, but I think we've done a season, right? We've done a season, which is cool. I'm not gonna say episode 26 will be season 2 or anything, but just between you guys and me, you know, this is we're going on to season 2, yeah. And maybe we can make some adjustments going forward. Maybe we can do a little bit different stuff. Like I said in the past, I'd like to do some more like history oriented stuff, right? Do some old school strats, you know, check out replays from the past if I could figure that out. Like War 3 History does a little bit. Go over those strats, see how they developed into the new strats. You know, like go over like the history of Druids of the Talon. It's still played today, but how was it played differently in the past? You know, what have we learned? Stuff like that. I think that would be cool to cover in the future. So adjustments are still going to be made, but 25 episodes. This is 25 weeks, and we've taken a bunch of weeks off. And speaking of taking weeks off, next week there's no episode because it's the end of the season, right? Normally you have to wait a whole summer for the new season of The Walking Dead, you know, to come out. Season 50 of that show or whatever. So no episode next week. But don't worry, there'll still be content on the day. There'll still be content. In fact, the same time this show would be on, there'll still be content, so don't worry. Yeah, Netflix is 13 episodes, yeah. So last week was, bro, the same hoodie, that means it's just like a celebrity then. Well, you know, look at me. I mean, I'm killing the game. It's a little chroma keyed out, but, you know, what can you do? What can you do? I need to get another light. Yeah, last episode was Human Day. We talked about Sock unleashing the beast, which was a nice episode. That was a fun one. I really enjoyed doing that because I enjoy covering new strats and like it's like breaking news, you know, there's a new strategy. So that was dope. I had a lot of fun with that one. I've had a lot of fun with the last few episodes. The bottom episode was really cool as well. So sorry, you got to ask a mod to post Twitch clips and then they can allow you. Sorry, bro. Yeah, so that was cool. And today, of course, will be Orc Day. Today is Orc Day. Hey, BB with the 5 months. 18 in total, though. We'll say a year and a half. How about that? Year and a half. Says, hey, Carson. Well, hello, BB. And we also had Mind Tricks earlier, before the stream even started. Before the stream even started, we had Mind Tricks. Subscribing for a year. He just puts down the 12 years in offline chat. Let me see. How do I allow? Do I allow? Is that how it works? I don't know. I don't know how it works, bro. Sorry. Do you do Night Elf days yet? Yeah, Night Elf Day will be, do we do Undead before Night Elf or Night Elf before Undead? I think, yeah, so the next episode is going to be Undead Day, and then we're going to have community replays, and then after that we'll have Night Elf Day. So the third week of August will be Night Elf Day. Third week of August. That'll be that. Might be permit? Yeah, maybe it will be. Maybe it is permit. Let's figure this out. It's all about learning today, so. Yeah, there we go. It's permit. Hey, thank you, Flying Air. Appreciate you. Teaching me how to moderate the channel I'm streaming on. There we go, there we go. You have your son by then, so you can watch and learn. Nice, dude. Congratulations. That's awesome. All right, cool. So today is Orc Day. Let's talk about today's episode. It's going to be pretty... There's a lot of complicated details when it comes to the sort of... the matchup we're going to talk about today. There's a lot of complicated details. And I might skim over some of them because it's very complicated. And I don't understand all the details of, for instance, the early creep routes can get very complicated, for instance. That's going to be the big thing that might get skimmed over and I might get wrong at times. I'll comment on them and I'll try to give my input on, yeah, mostly the early game creep routes and why these things are happening. But just to say at the beginning of the episode, that's probably going to be a time that maybe I have some inaccuracies. But regardless, let's jump over the notepads and let's talk about the episode. Boom, 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 boom. The notepad. So, today's episode is called, I hope I put this down, yeah, Defending FSFL with Blademaster. What's an FS? Well, FF Farseer and FL Firelord. Defending Farseer Firelord with Blademaster. Of course, we're talking about Orkmir today. We're going to be learning from the Blademaster side of things how to defend Farseer Firelord, generally a Farseer Firelord tower rush. Now, this is a strategy as old as Warcraft itself. Well, not as old as Reign of Chaos because there wasn't a Firelord back then. How old is the Firelord? Does anyone know? Firelord Warcraft 3. How old is it? It's as old as the Firelord has been in the game. Has the Firelord been in since the beginning? Because I know they slowly added some Tavern heroes. Firelord was added in August 2004. So this strategy is as old as August 2004. The strategy is be 300 MMR higher in skill. Yeah, I will say, Black Phoenix, that this is a sort of situation where the Blademaster side of things is much more difficult than the Farseer Firelord side of things, but that's just true with cheeses, right? And this is kind of a cheese. Yeah, it is a cheese. Although cheese, you know, it's loosely defined as a cheese because it can still work even when you know how to defeat it, because it's still execution-based, which is generally how cheeses work in Warcraft as opposed to games like StarCraft. But, you know, a cheese by definition is something that when you know how to beat it, you sort of never lose to it again, so it's not entirely true. But, you know, I would still define it as a cheese. But, yeah, it's going to be harder for the Blademaster player. It's going to be harder. Just like a Tinker Tower Rush or a Naga Tower Rush, as, you know, human against Night Elf, it's always going to be harder for the Night Elf to deal with that. A Blademaster Naga Tower Rush, Orc against Night Elf, I used to do that strat all the time, it's going to be harder for the Night Elf to deal with. You know, stuff like that. It's just true. It's just true with cheeses. But definitely possible to defeat on even skill, as long as everything goes right and you have a good understanding. And there's a lot of things that are commonly messed up, even by top players. Even by top players. One big player that consistently messes us up from the replays that I was watching, and these are things we're going to talk about today, is Fly, actually. It's Fly. Fly screws us up all the time, and he loses to it very often. Yeah, a lot of the replays of players losing to this was Fly. Let me take a look at it, actually. Blade versus Farseer. Farseer win. There's a lot of focus losing. Yeah, Fly is losing to Fast. Fly is losing to Linguagua. Fly is losing to XiaoKai. A lot of it is Fly. Fly is losing to Soin. Right? A lot of it's Fly. So there's some common errors that people make, but for instance, you know, Lin, Hitman, and Focus are probably the top 3 Orkmir players in the world. So, you know, those are the big boys we want to talk about for the most part. Soin is also pretty strong, but Soin is, he does sort of emulate what Lin and Hitman kind of do, with very, very good micro on top of it, but sometimes his strategy is a little bit looser than theirs is. But yeah, so Focus, Hitman, Lin, those are the 3 big boys we want to be talking about. Alright, but let's first talk about Farseer. Okay, let's get rid of this music for a second. Let's talk about Farseer. And Orkmir in general. I guess that's a good place to start. So how many strategies are there in Orkmir? Now, this might be me being an Orc player bias, but does Orkmir have the most strategies of, like, any matchup? What's another matchup with a lot of strategies? Like Night Elf against Undead. I guess the Undead has quite a few. They have expo timing, stuff like that. Night Elf against Orc. Night Elf has a lot of strats there. But honestly, I think Orkmir has the most strategies. Human Mirror doesn't have many strategies. Human vs. Undead doesn't have many. Human Mirror has Breaker Mirror, Fast Expo. It has one base, one player goes tier 3. You know, it has pretty much those 3. Expo, Breaker Mirror, tier 3. And the Breaker Mirror has like a tier 2 Expo. Right? I think Orkmir. Now, I'll write down all the strats. This isn't important by any means, but it's just to say that when you go into an Orkmir matchup, which is why the creep routes can get so complicated, as I pointed out earlier. That's the thing I might be misunderstanding at points, too. That's why the creep routes could be so confusing, because there's so many strategies going into the game that you have to counter. And you're doing all this, note, in Orkmir, standard. You don't peon scout. So you have to have a flowchart in which it counters so many different strategies without scouting, and it has to involve your early game creep route. So it could be very complicated. It could be very complicated. Let's talk about how many strategies there are. So the first things first, there's Blademaster. And I won't go into too much detail on these, but Blademaster would be Raider, Walker, Kodo, 3 Grunts, 3 Raiders, a Kodo, 2 Walkers, Shadowhunter creeps level 3. Either you go tier 3 or you don't, but it's standard sort of old school style Blademaster, right? There's, you can go Shadowhunter first, Shadowhunter Pitlord, right? This Shadowhunter, and you can go into either a Pitlord or you can go into a Firelord out of this, right? There's those strats. There's TC Headhunters, which is a cheese, but it's a strat that we can see, right? There's Farseer versus Farseer, which is different from Farseer against Blade. Farseer versus Farseer is normally Farseer, Torn Chieftain, Shamans, Bloodlust Headhunters, stuff like that. So the Farseer versus Farseer is played much differently than Farseer against Blademaster, than this Farseer versus BM. So those are the 5 main sort of categories of strategies, but then within these categories, there's different strategies. So for instance, Farseer against Blademaster, that's what we're talking about today, so let's focus on that. What kind of strategies can the Farseer player play against the Blademaster? Well, they can do the Farseer Firelord, which is what we're going to talk about, right? They can do Farseer Shadowhunter tier 3 tech. They can do, this isn't as common as before, but they could do Farseer 2 Barracks Headhunters. And that's a tier 1 tower rush. There's even like a burrow rush strategy. Let's not get into the weeds here. Those are pretty much the 3 main ones. Farseer Torn Chieftain could be played. Let's put it on here, but it's really not commonly played against Blademaster, Farseer Torn Chieftain. Right, so just here, although maybe I'm being, again, I'm Orc player, a little bit of bias here, and I'm maybe going a little bit in detail on some of these strats, and if I was playing another race, maybe I'd sort of get the weird strats that you don't see too often, and I'd remember them more clearly, but just this alone, we've already covered like 9 strats that are pretty commonly played. So there's a lot of strategies in Orkmir. And again, you have to counter all of these options and be able to defend all these cheese options or all these standard options without scouting. You don't peon scout in Orkmir. For some reason, I do think eventually orcs are going to start peon scouting in Orkmir. I really do think, because it took orc players a while to start peon scouting, for instance, against Night Elf. Like, even after we got the extra supply on our Great Halls, we didn't peon scout against Night Elf on every map. We only peon scouted on some maps against Night Elf. Whereas nowadays, Orc players are scouting on every single map because they realize how important it is. And I think eventually for Orkmir, it's going to be similar. And of course, now Orc players are also scouting against Undead, which wasn't always happening before. Yeah, it's not too warm out. Not too warm out, musky manatee. So there's a lot of different strats. So, you know, we're going to be breezing past the fact that when you go into a game, we're going to, of course, know that we're going to be up against Farseer Firelord watching these replays, but we have to think that the Orc players we're going to be watching, from their perspective, they don't know which of these 9 or so strategies they're going to be playing against. Right? Does that make sense? So when we see a creep route, it might not always be the optimized creep route against this particular strategy, but it's the optimized creep route against the entire set of strategies, which gets continuously more difficult when you add in your opponent metagaming you, your opponent trying to counter your creep route, so they're doing a suboptimal creep route as well. There's a lot of complexity to it when you add in all these strategies and both players not really scouting on top of it. It gets really wacky. It's really wacky. Hello, Yusa444. How are you? Now, of course, we're going to be talking about Farseer Firelord. So what is Farseer Firelord? It used to in the past be you would go Farseer and you would immediately harass. Does anyone remember the Grubby versus Zacard match from 2006 or whatever on Twisted Meadows? That was the way it was played for a long time. This, of course, was a Farseer mirror, But even against Blademaster, it was played like this. You pick up a Farseer, or you go Farseer initially. You tech as fast as you possibly can. So you tech with an altar and a burrow, and you tech as soon as your 7th Lumber Peon comes out, right? At 17 supply. And you get tier 2 as quick as possible. Once you're tier 2, you get a Fire Lord, and you push with 3 grunts that you get after your text, after you build your barracks after your tech. That was a really common way. And you just harass the entire game. You'd harass the entire game. You mean Razorman style? Well, Razorman does that, and he goes into 2 Beast Raiders, which this was you go into a barracks after you tech, and then you sort of tower rush at tier 2 with a very, very early tech, you know, like 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Excellent. You know, I will say, this is a slight tangent, but I did look the Undead Day. I forget what strategy I did for Undead Day. I think it was 1-2-0 and happy against Night Elf was the last Undead Day. And when I was looking through replays for that, because of course how I plan an episode is I just pick a matchup, right? I say, oh, I'm gonna do Orc Mirror today. I pick a matchup. I go to War 3 Info, and I download every single replay of top players that are actually watchable on this patch. And then I look through those replays, and I think, oh, here's one strategy that is played commonly and that one race is very successful with against the other. Now, my initial thought was, when I did Undead Day, when I planned it, was I'm going to do playing DK against Farseer Headhunters. So I downloaded all the replays. I got all of them together. And now I don't know if it's the fact that there's not a lot of orcs in Europe, or there's not a lot of undeads in Asia, but I only found about like 3 replays of undead beating Farseer Headhunters, and 2 of 3 of those were playing ghouls on Amazonia, and then one of them was playing Ted Fiends. So there just was, yeah. Probably both, yeah. So it was tough, but I will say it was on my mind. It was on my mind. But I for now I cannot tell you the answer until I get much more replays to study. Yes, there's my tangent. So the original Farseer Firelord, let's talk about it. FS, FL, straight tech, right? That's the opening to it. And then you tower rush at tier 2 with like 3 grunts. 2 to 3 grunts. That was it. It was very simple, straight up. You just harass the entire game. You cancel their 2nd burrow, but back in the day, people were 2 burrow teching, so you couldn't do that so much. And this is the style that if you started playing around the time that I played, if I started playing around 2010, you know, and then that style until about like 2019, you probably remember this strategy. They used to harass you, they used to damage your lumber, and this is back when people were still playing Raider Walker against Farseer. So that was the common way to play it. But today it's played a lot differently because, of course, now there's the Farseer Headhunter style, and nowadays people actually realize that Farseer level 1 is pretty bad. Farseer level 3 is much, much stronger, and paired with Farseer Headhunters, you're actually able to creep very, very fast, whereas before in the past you couldn't. So nowadays what people do is they go for a Farseer Headhunter opener. I don't know what grunts are, I just started playing 2020. Yeah, fair. So they do a Farseer Headhunter opener, which is altar, burrow, 5 on gold, war mill, barracks, 2nd burrow. You tech at 2 headhunters. Which means that your tech is done around, I can't remember the numbers. Your tech should be done around 5.5 minutes, 5 minutes. I can't remember it exactly. But your tech is done, it's a relatively late tech compared to the Farseer fast tech style. Whereas your tech is done at 4 minutes and 10 seconds if you insta-tech. And you creep level 3 with your Farseer. Creep level 3 with your Farseer and your Headhunters. And then you get a Firelord. Firelord at tier 2. And then you tower rush. With generally 3 peons. And sometimes you can add in a bestiary. Sometimes we'll see people add in Spirit Walkers. Rarely will we see people add in Shamans. It's not very good, but yeah. They might go a couple of Kodos. But there's a couple more steps here. You got to do a different build order. You got to get a later tech. You got to creep level 3, which is a very important part because honestly, level 1 Farseer is really, really bad. And then you still tower rush at the end of the day. It's relatively simple still. It's probably one of the most simple strategies other than just a straight tier 1 cheese in the game, right? You know, maybe you could say like a Naga tower rush against Night Elf is simpler, but really Farseer Headhunters Firelord tower rush is pretty simple. And I'm an orc player, and I play this strat sometimes too, so got no shame. It's very simple. Very simple. Those are pretty much the steps. And the reason why it's so simple is because Farseer, you think about a Farseer and a Firelord, are they going to do well in the late game? No. No, they're not. What, are you going to get a third hero? What, are you going to go Shadowhunter third at tier 3 and try to make... No. It's not good. It's not good. So you have to win the game in the early game. You have to win it, or else is the game just over? Like, what are you going to follow up with? You could, summon harass the whole game, but, your opponent's going to have Spirit Walkers or Shamans. In this case, it's going to be Shamans. So it has to be simple, purely for the reason that your heroes just do not scale in the late game. So that's the sort of strategy we're going to be looking at. Now, there have been 2 counters to this from orcs in the past, from the initial fast tech sort of counter, or the fast tech style of the Farseer Headhunters, when you would go grunts and you would tower rush very early as opposed to creeping with the Headhunters. Orcs used to go Blademaster and Shadowhunter. Well, they used to, and they still do. And they creep very little, and they chase around the Farseer. And they creep little and chase... And they chase the Farseer. Right? That's what they used to do. And then at tier 2, they would go a Beast and a... Well, it's Tauren Totem now. They'd go for Raiders and Walkers. And the reason why they would chase around the Farseer so much is because the Farseer was trying to harass their economy, and they wanted to get both a Bestiary and a Tauren Totem at tier 2, so they can't actually sacrifice the lumber economy from the harass, and they can't just creep while they're getting harassed and be like, I'll just take the lumber hit, because they want to get their tech up. They're going to go for Raiders, they're going to go for Walkers, they want to get brute strength early, right? They need all the lumber, so they actually have to chase around the Farseer and fight the wolves in their base to stop themselves from losing a bunch of lumber economy. So this is how orcs used to counter it with Blademaster. Whereas nowadays, what people do against the Headhunter style is they say, okay, I'll open Blademaster still, because Blademaster's fun, and I like playing Blademaster. I'm still going to go Shadowhunter second. Don't underestimate the value of spikes versus BM grunts when tower rushing. Yeah, spike barricades very strong with this strategy from the Firelord perspective, for sure. And what they would do is they would say, if you're going to immediately harass me, I'm going to let you do it, and I'm just going to defend with burrows. I'm going to defend as little as possible. I'm just going to defend with burrows. I'm going to take the lumber hit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to creep Blade level 3. In which case, a lot of the times you can get Blade level 3 because the Farseer Headhunter player nowadays, they're trying to creep level 3 as well. So you're both going to be level 3 by the time they come to push you. And then instead of going Raid or Walker like we used to in the past, now we're just going to go pure Grunt. Oh, I misspelled that. Grunt and Shaman. You're just going to go pure Grunt Shaman. Now this allows us to, if our lumber economy gets harassed, right? We don't need to build a bestiary. We don't need to worry too much about lumber economy. Shamans are very cheap in lumber. They cost 20 lumber, right? And grunts don't cost any lumber. So really our lumber economy is not a factor anymore for the most part. So we don't have to worry about if they're harassing us constantly. If they're harassing us, we can literally just creep and not worry about it. We also have earlier Dispel against the lava spawns, against the wolves when we have Shamans, and grunts are really good against Headhunters. So we can just go 6 grunts if we need to deal with the Headhunters. It's very barbaric to not write on the lines. Well, I could adjust it. Here. Oops. I can adjust it, but then... See, then it messes it up on the other one. See, if I do the middle one on the line, then the other ones... See, it's just an impossible situation. You just can't win here. I can't do anything. Now, I did have the idea last episode where I would actually write on a notepad with a camera on it. That could be kind of cool. And then, of course, when your Shadowhunter comes out, when you hit tier 2, another adjustment that people used to make is people used to just go Hex right off the bat. And they used to say, okay, you're going to tower rush me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do Orc things. I'm going to go Hex, and I'm going to speed scroll. I'm going to focus your Farseer. Handwrite next time, please. Yeah. I'm going to speed scroll. I'm going to focus your Farseer and get it out of here with Hex. Right? But that's very all-in-y. Like, how can you guarantee you're going to get the Farseer? What if they have a speed scroll? What if they have a potion of healing? What if they have a cloak of shadows? Right? What if they get a block? What if you don't get the kill and now you have Hex first, you've invested all your mana, your speed scroll, and you didn't get the Farseer kill? It's very committal. So that's sort of a last-ditch effort attempt. Whereas nowadays, what people do is when the Shadowhunter comes out, they go heal wave because they realize if I just have grunts, you have headhunters, I have a Blademaster, and you have a Farseer, and I go heal wave, I'm just going to outvalue you. My units do better damage than your units because they actually counter your unit's armor type. I have heal wave, you don't have heal wave. I have potions at my shop, you do not. My Blademaster does more damage than your Farseer, especially if your wolves are purged away. So nowadays, Orc just focuses on outvaluing the Farseer Firelord Tower Rush. And this is also another reason why creeping Blade level 3 is so powerful, because you need your Blade to be the carry of your army, because you need the sustain, you need the damage, you need to just outvalue the Farseer Firelord Tower Rush. So it's a much different approach than it used to be. It used to be economic based, to deal with the harass cleanly, don't lose too much, and then you get, Raider Walker and hold on with powerful units. Whereas nowadays it's like, I'm just going to invest 1,000 gold into potions, mass a bunch of grunts, and just sustain longer than you. It's a much different approach. So it's a little bit of the history of the strategy and how it's developed and how we've ended up at where it is today. Are there any questions before we jump into the first replay? But isn't lumber still a priority for the upgrades? I think 2-1 or even 2-2 is a must on the grunts. No, in fact, we're not even going to see any of these players build a war mill today. Nobody's going to build a war mill. And Glorious Staffords with the 15 months, appreciate you. We're not going to see the Farseer players are going to build a war mill, of course. They do every game. We're not going to see a war mill the entire day. I think, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we're not going to see a war mill the whole day. Because again, you could get a war mill up. That's the cost of one grunt. And then you can get, say, an attack upgrade. But what if we just build another grunt and it's all about just having a lot of meat. It's all about outvaluing. You do a bunch of damage to me. I do a bunch of damage to you. Who ends up with units at the end of the day? Well, if we both end up with no units, what do you know? My heroes are just better than yours. I have Blademaster Shadowhunter, you have Farseer Firelord. Who's going to win the hero versus hero fight? Assuming I have like a shaman to deal with the summons, I'm going to win it because my heroes are just better than yours. So the idea is I'm just going to attack move into you, you're just going to attack move into me, and I'm just going to have more stuff than you. And I'm going to buy potions, I'm going to have heal wave. I'm just going to outvalue you at home. And all you have to think about with this strategy, with defending Farseer Firelord, it's a different story against Farseer Shadowhunter, Farseer Torn Chieftain, Farseer Shadowhunter Alchemist. It's a different story. But against Farseer Firelord, again, we have to understand that if we hold their push, they cannot win in the mid or the late game. They cannot win. All we have to do is outvalue them during the push and hold on, not let them get towers up, and we have won the game. Why do you Farseer Firelord push against superior opponents? That is one reason, for sure. Another reason would be it's actually quite a bit easier than playing the Blade. Quite a bit easier. So if you're even evenly skilled, based on the execution both players need, the Farseer Firelord player might actually have a better shot. But yeah, I would say it works very well against someone who's better than you, too. Especially if that someone is better than you at a lower level. Like, if Soin, for instance, Farseer Firelord Tower rushes Lyn, Soin being a bit worse than Lyn, by any amount, just because he's doing the easier strategy doesn't mean Lyn's not going to beat him probably 90% of the time, because Lyn actually understands how to beat the strategy. And he's going to be able to do it because his execution is so strong. Whereas at a lower level, if you're at 1700, 1600 MMR, not only now as the Farseer Firelord player are you doing the easier strategy, but also the person you're playing against doesn't know how to deal with the strategy. So you have even more of a reason to do that. It's going to be even stronger. So it's better the lower MMR you get, actually, to do these sorts of cheeses. Whereas the higher level you get, they're still going to work to an extent, but not just because your opponent, doesn't know how to deal with them. Hope that makes sense. Any other questions? We have 4 replays for today. The first 2 are going to be against very, very standard sort of play. But then after we watch these first 2 replays, I know you guys are going to have 2 questions. So the third and the fourth replay are going to answer those 2 questions for you guys. There's going to be 2 burning questions Two burning questions for you. But the first two are going to be very standard. We're going to watch a Hitman replay, and then we're going to watch a Lin replay of them defending Farseer Firelord very, very handedly. And you guys might be surprised by, it's actually pretty simple, all things considered. The most complicated part is kind of the creep routes. But it's very simple. Hit Boy, yeah, we're going to watch a Hit Boy replay. So the first replay is going to be Hitman against Focus on Last Refuge. Focus will be the cheeser, and Hitman will be the manly Blademaster player. And of course, those of you that are Farseer players, we're going to do a whole lot more episodes on Farseer, so don't worry. All right, you're going to be shunned today, and Blademaster players will reign supreme. But don't worry, we're going to do more episodes on Farseer in the future, all right? So if you're a Farseer player, don't worry. Don't worry. We'll learn how to beat these Blademaster players in the future, all right? All right, so like I said, Hitman against Focus on Last Refuge. Here we go. Oh. So here's Hitman. And here's Focus. What if you don't go BM and they go Farseer Firelord? Therein lies the complexity of the matchup. So I do want to talk about a couple of things about Hitman in particular here. Now these aren't important to the strategy, but this is kind of just a cool little thing we can talk about a bit. And this is specific to Hitman, although other orcs might be doing it. Now, this burrow, and if you don't know about this and you're an orc player, this is going to blow your mind, okay? This burrow, now a very common strategy in Blademaster Mirror, not what we're going to see in this game, but still we don't know if Focus, if we're from Hitman's perspective, we don't know if Focus is playing Blademaster, Farseer, Torn Chieftain, Shadowhunter. What is he playing? So if we're covering the option of a Blademaster mirror, it's very common for a Blademaster to run across the map early on and try to cancel not our first burrow, but our second burrow. And that stops us from getting our second grunt, which means our opponent has more grunts, which means they can creep faster, which means they can trade more efficiently, and it hurts our economy. There's a lot of good things. So what Hitman does on this map, on this spawn, which is super sick. He builds his base in this specific way. And again, this isn't going to help against Farseer, but against the Blademaster it would. His altar's here. His first burrow's here. And there's actually a position right here where he can build his second burrow where a melee unit cannot reach it. So it can't reach from here. It can't reach from here. So his second burrow will be built here. And until he chops down this tree, a melee unit cannot reach it. So this means if a Blademaster comes in to cancel his second burrow, it's actually impossible. Like I said, it's not important to this strategy, but it's super sick. This is how you build the base, and you put your second burrow right here. It's actually sick. And he's the first person to have done this, from my knowledge. Super dope. Super dope. Absolutely incredible. So we're going to see a second burrow be built here. And again, against the Farseer, it's not going to help. But if it were a Blademaster from Focus, it would help. And notice he's going to avoid this tree, because if this tree gets chopped down, then you can kill the burrow. So it might be possible on other maps as well, but this is the only map you can do it on. Another point is he actually uses his burrow to increase the lumber as well. So there's a lot of things Hitman's doing to min-max here, which aren't integral to the strategy, but it's just really cool knowing how much you can min-max the opening build order. Note when you put peons into a burrow and then unload them, they always come out at the bottom, which is why he's returning and then putting them in a burrow. If it was on the other side, then he'd have to do it reverse. So just a couple small details. Again, not important to the strategy, but just cool details that I like to point out. Okay, so Hitman is still, it's worth noting, he doesn't know... Hello, Hudamic. How's it going? He doesn't know if he's up against a Blademaster or a Farseer. If we look at our opponent, we don't know what's going on, and we haven't peon scouted because you don't peon scout in most situations in Orkmere. Right, so he doesn't know what his opponent is doing. So this opening creep route, he's not going into the game with the opening creep route thinking, I'm going to counter Farseer Firelord Tower Rush right now, because he's playing against Focus. He doesn't know what strategy he's going to be up against. All he knows is, I need to do a creep route, which is the best against the majority of strategies, so I'm not behind. Right, so these creep routes at the beginning of the game are not going to be tailored towards one particular strategy. But in this case, what Hitman's going for is he's going to sell his TP, he's going to buy Circlet Dust, and he's going to go for this Priest. He's also going to skip the shop and tech quick because he's going so far away from his base. This is just particular to last Refuge. He's also sending this Grunt to this Priest because he wants to scout if there was a Blademaster from Focus, is he doing the same creep route as me? The Grunt would see Focus creeping this with a Blademaster, while Hitman creeps this. And if the Grunt doesn't see the Blademaster here, Hitman will take both Priests, and then he'll assume there's a Blademaster taking like his whole green camp, for instance. But this opening creep route is still assuming Blademaster mirror. He doesn't know it's a Farseer until he actually sees this wolf, although he might miss it. We can take a look at the second burrow, which should be coming up pretty soon as well, once he has enough gold. So now he knows it's a Farseer. Now he knows it's a Farseer, so we'll see how he reacts to the Farseer. He's going to put a little bit of damage on it because he's already in a position to put some damage on it. And then he's going to Windwalk away. See, like I pointed out in the notes before, there was a time when we would just chase this Farseer for the entire early game. To say, oh, he can't, if I'm attacking him, he can't come and harass my economy. He can't come and cancel the second burrow because, of course, a Farseer would be able to cancel this. Just a Blademaster wouldn't be able to reach. See, there was a time when we would chase around this Farseer, but Hitman, when he sees a Farseer, look what he does. Look what adjustment he makes. As soon as he sees a Farseer, he knows immediately what he's supposed to do. And that thing that he's supposed to do is creep level 3 as fast as possible. So now he's going to power creep. He's going to literally do the fastest possible creep route to level 3. I think in this game, I don't think there's a better way for him to creep level 3 unless he were to get illusions from this camp. But other than this, it's just fully standard. He's building the shop after tech. This is something you'll only do on Last Refuge. Every other map, you'd build your shop before you tech.
Work complete.
Now, he doesn't have salves yet, so we can't really creep this. So it'd be really inefficient. So he's going to go creep this, and then he's going to get salves. In the meantime, as we pointed out, the Farseer player is always going to creep level 3.
We're under attack.
At the highest level, they're always going to try to creep level 3, so that's what Focus is also going to do. He's going to creep level 3 Farseer. And just all standard, right? 3 burrows, shop, continuing to produce grunts.
Work complete.
Second grunt is out. Hitman needs to get salves now because he didn't get them earlier on. And now what's the best place to get level 3 from? Well, it's going to be the shop. That's the only place. Right now, you wouldn't be able to creep the lab. It's too difficult. This is 2 out of the way. This is 2 out of the way. This wouldn't give level 3. You need illusions to creep this. So if you were to get illusions from the priest, for instance, if Hitman were to have done that, if we were to got that instead of the wards, in this situation, we might see Hitman use one of those illusions to actually pull the Merc camp and then creep it and buy the Berserker and maybe even the priest. That's a play that he would do, but only if he got illusions, and that would also give him level 3. So this, if he has illusions, this is his camp of choice, if not. Now he's staying out of vision of the Headhunters. The ward sees them, but they don't see him. And if they even did, it would have just been for a second. You just skill illusions? Yeah, that'd be an interesting creep route for sure. So tier 2 is finished. And this is an important stage in the game. Because again, we don't know right now Is he Farseer Firelord tower rushing us? Or is he playing one of these other Farseer strategies? He would still be creeping level 3, regardless of the strategy. Both players would be. But we don't know, is it Shadowhunter? Is he teching tier 3? Is he going Tauren Chieftain second? Or is he Firelord tower rushing us? We still don't know entirely, but once we're level 3 Blademaster, we're going to be able to scout and find him and figure out what he's doing. So this is an important stage of the game, because we still don't know. We're still kind of in the dark, other than the starting hero. Right? But level 3 is the first step when we see Farseer. Back at home, Shadowhunter. And we're going to see a Spirit Lodge once Hitman can afford it. A little bit late. A little bit late there, Victor. A little bit late. A little bit late there, Victor. A little bit late there. But there's a Spirit Lodge. Better late than never. Alright. So this would ideally be a little bit earlier, but that's alright. Shadowhunter's on time. And you might be asking, when are we going to get Brute Strength? Well, in this case, Hitman's not going to get it right away. He's actually going to get the 4th Grunt first. Now, if he knew for a fact it wasn't going to be Farseer Firelord, maybe he would get Brute Strength first, but he still doesn't know entirely. So he's going to get the 4th Grunt before Brute Strength, which is something that he got perfect item luck. He did get pretty good items. Pretty good items. But, you know, you can't get a bad item from this shop. Big Invuln is going to be useful. Greater Heal is going to be useful. Scroll to Beast is going to be useful. The only thing that's going to be bad from the shop is a 1 in 5. It's going to be Wand of Mana Stealing. Right? That's going to be the only thing. Do you creep BM if FS harass immediately? We're going to have a replay covering that. That'll be replay 3. Don't worry, I'm going to cover that. So he sees the Farseer. He doesn't harass. He doesn't do anything. He's not looking for headhunters. He's not trying to steal creeps. He literally creeps level 3 as fast as he possibly can. And then he's going to go and find the Farseer, because now we need to know at this stage, what strategy is our opponent doing? Do we see a Firelord when we go to the tavern? Do we see a Shadowhunter? Do we see headhunters? We don't know. You see these creeps in the shop. We still don't know what's going on. We just see a whole lot of headhunters. And now we see the Firelord. Now we see the Firelord, and worth noting, I think Lucker was asking in the chat, like, sometimes I don't know whether I creep my Shadowhunter, when it comes out, or if I should prepare for the Firelord push. Pretty much, you can guess the timing of, if he's not in your base by the time your Spirit Lodge is done, he's probably not coming. And also, you can know the timing, because by the time your Shadowhunter, it will be just out, because remember, Hitman teched a little bit earlier, right? Because he skipped the shop. Teched a little bit earlier, about 5 seconds, 6 seconds earlier. But if your Shadowhunter's out and he's not in your base yet, and you haven't seen a Firelord yet, most likely he's going Shadowhunter. Most likely he's going Shadowhunter, in which case you can creep. But, like, you should be able to see him because you're going to be level 3 Blademaster. You're either going to be level 3 Blademaster at this stage, or he will have been harassing you, so you'll have full info from him either way. So there should be no chance at this stage that you don't know if he's Farseer Firelord tower rushing you, or if he's going Farseer Shadowhunter tier 3 tech. Starshape, hi Carson, when will we get TheoryCraft on Tower and Bats? Fans asking for it. Maybe next month. I need to find, you know, I should do in a whole episode of just like lame strategies. Like, I was thinking of doing like a fun strat episode, but maybe I'll do like, what would it be? Like tower rushes, like a 3 militia tower rush, or like a Tinker tower rush as human against Night Elf. Maybe I'll do like that Criplord build where you grab a bunch of critters and go for like the burrow kills like right away out of the altar. And maybe I'll do Mass Tower, Bat Rider lame. Maybe I do that. Lame is fun. That's true. But yeah, maybe I could do a whole episode on that. In which case, I would 100% absolutely do one of your replays, one of your orc replays. If I would do a whole bunch of them. Maybe that could be like a special episode. No, please don't. All right. So, Hitman now knows what the strategy is. So let's see how he reacts. Of course, he's building a 4th Grunt, no brute strength. Shadowhunter's about to be out. When the Shadowhunter comes out, Hitman's going to make a judgment call of, can I get some serious value out of Hex? If the answer to that question is no, I'm just going to go heal wave by default. There's going to be no serpent wards here. Nothing crazy, alright? Don't freak out. Just get heal wave. That's the most important part of this stage in the game. Especially if you're not a top player. When you see this coming to your base, don't freak out. Remain calm. Remember that you're actually just as strong as him. Just go heal wave. And what we're going to see Hitman do is he's going to go heal wave. He's going to continue to produce grunts. He's going to invest the extra gold he has into health potions and mana potions, because it's going to be very important for him to keep his blade alive. And he's going to pull the boys. He's going to pull all the peons. So let's take a look at this. And he's going to hold this super easily because of a couple of mistakes from focus, but we'll touch on that in the second replay. Alright, fourth grunt about to be out. Notice fifth grunt immediately. He's not worried about brute strength right now. He's just worried about having the meat, remember. The meat. And he's pulling the boys. Now, it's obviously better to have the boys in the burrows if they're in range. But if they're not in range, you pull all the boys. So right now, he's thinking maybe he'll be in range of the burrow so I can get some damage from it. But if he kites back, he'll pull the boys. He'll pull the boys. Now, Hitman's always going to be focusing on these wolves right away because these are super high DPS. And they're in your way, so he's going to be focusing on the wolves most of the time. The summons are the big thing. Notice, he bought a potion and already used it. He's not going to wait. This seems like a small point, but it's actually very important. He didn't wait till last second to use the potion. He bought a potion of healing as soon as he could use the 250 hit points, used it immediately, and bought another one. Because the potions of healing are on a cooldown when you use them. What is it, 10, 12 seconds until you can use the next one? So use it early and just buy another one. It's also worth noting the potions are on cooldown in the Voodoo Lounge. So buy the potions right away so that the cooldown starts. And use them on your blade right away so the cooldown starts. Because again, it's all about how much sustain you have, how much meat you have. Right? Now, Speed Scroll Peon Surround is not something we can count on consistently. But there is an invuln regardless. Use it or lose it, AKM. Beautiful. Beautifully done. Beautifully put, even. And again, you might ask yourselves, would Hitman win this fight even if he didn't get that surround on the Farseer? Yeah. Yeah, he would. Yeah, he would. But killing that Farseer just helps out a little bit extra. Now, he's not even worried about getting Shamans out. He's just worried about still having more grunts at this stage. And I know this looked very easy to hold, but don't worry, the next replay it's going to be trickier. So this is going to be the easiest case scenario of a hold, but we're going to see it get more difficult in replay too. So now it's held, and again, Hitman just goes right back to creeping because he knows at this stage he's held. He held very easily. He lost some units. He invested a lot into potions, etc. But he knows at this stage, again, I don't have to do anything crazy. He doesn't have to go harass. He doesn't have to stop focus from creeping. He doesn't have to worry about anything. All he has to worry about is if I can get my heroes up higher level, there's no way focus is going to win a fight ever. Because my heroes are way better. I'm going to have shamans. They're going to get rid of the lava spawns, the wolves. They're going to get rid of everything. My heroes are going to destroy his entire army. All Hitman's worried about right now is I'm going to be stronger than him if we both just creep here. The only chance focus has is to just attack again. So he knows I got some time. He's going to try to attack me again. I just need to get as much value as I possibly can before he pushes me again. And he's going to do so without fear because luckily for him, he got this ward. He's got this ward here. But even if he didn't have this ward here, he would still know he's got a little bit of time to squeeze out some value. He's just going to continue to build grunts and build shamans. He'll get brute strength now if he hasn't already. He'll probably get it right now. There's the brute strength. And note, there's no War Mill coming up. In this situation, there's no tier 3 tech, but we'll talk about that later. There's just grunts and shamans coming out because once you see the Fire Lord, they're not going to the late game. You don't need to do anything. You just need to get grunt shaman out and keep creeping, and there's no way they're going to win. There's no way. You know, unless they somehow outplay you and, like, mass raid or hit and run you for 20 minutes or something,
Our
right?
town is under attack.
He's hoping for a Book of the Dead here. I honestly think any item he gets there is really good. Wand of the Wind would be bad, but I think anything's good. So Focus comes back with Walkers. Walkers might seem a little weird, but they're just good. They're pretty good here. And if you're just producing Headhunters, you have more gold than a lot, you know, just Headhunters can use, so. He's coming back, and Hitman's well prepared. He's got a level 4 blade. He's just going to keep building grunts and shamans. He waits. In most cases, against Night Elf, for instance, you might go 2 shamans and then Adept. But Adept doesn't really get a lot of value. You just want the initial purges to get rid of the initial lava spawns when they push you. So in most cases, actually, we're going to see Orcs go 3 shamans and then Adept. Whereas against Night Elf, you know, you have a little bit more time, so getting Adept earlier actually gets you a lot more value. But here we just want the purge that we get. And see, as soon as Focus leaves, Hitman just goes, I'm just going to creep again. I'm just going to creep again. And even if he gets creepjacked here and loses like a grunt, it's whatever. He's way stronger. He's totally fine. He's totally fine. He's totally safe. He's just about being confident, and he's not afraid of the army that Focus has, because he knows he's just stronger than Focus.
Work complete. Research complete. We're under attack.
And Focus actually did a nice play here. He hit a couple of towers. But it's not going to matter. And this game actually has the funniest end of any replay that I saw, which is why I actually included this replay over another one. But they both were a good example of this. See, and this is a position where both players are just kind of attack moving into each other. There's nothing complicated going on here. There's nothing crazy. They're both attack moving into each other. But one of these players is going to end up with no units, and the other one's going to end up with some units. Right? Because Heal Wave, Potion, higher hit point units. Ah, yeah, someone in the chat knows the game. Alright. We're going to watch this at half speed, because it's hilarious. It's not important. The game at this stage is already over. But this is pretty funny. So half speed, there we go. Blade has an Onk, so it's not important. He bought the Zeppelin purely just to, you know, deny it. And now he's going to get a bit fancy with it. And he somehow stutters a crit and doesn't actually crit, even though that would have killed the the Farseer. Focus buys a Sapper to kill the Blademaster, and look what happens. He kills his whole army. He kills his whole army and the blade with it. Nice. Yep. And that's replay 1. So, it looked very easy, right? That was a very one-sided game in a way. But we just follow all the steps, and it's easy peasy. He got a nice surround as well, which again I said we cannot rely on, but let's talk a little bit about what happened. So what did Hitman do? He had an opening creep route. This is an important part of the flow chart sort of thing, right? His opening creep route was an anti-Blademaster creep route. Right? Now again, like I said, when I talk about creep routes here, I might get some of these things wrong because it's a very complicated ordeal in Orkmir, the opening creep routes. I don't know all the details. But his opening creep route was sort of used to counter what he deemed to be the most powerful strategy he could be up against, which would have been Blademere, right? When he saw the Farseer, when he confirmed that he was up against a Farseer, he just crept level 3. Creep level 3. So that's the first step of the game. When he gets level 3, he scouts. Level 3, scouts FS. Because he needs to see at that stage. Is it Farseer Firelord? Is it Farseer Shadowhunter? Is he teching tier 3? Is he pushing me with just a Shadowhunter? Is he walking across the map? You need to scout once you get that level 3 and figure out what the hell they're doing. After you confirm that it's a Firelord, you get a 4th Grunt plus Heal Wave on SH. You, of course, get Spirit Lodge, and you pull the boys. Right? Pull the boys, and it was a very simple defense by Hitman. Very simple. If there were towers coming up, he would ensure to cancel those towers. Good point. Potions. Yep, for sure. Potions immediately. That's actually a very important point. Thank you for reminding me of that. He makes sure the potions are always being used on cooldown, off cooldown, keeping the cooldown going, because your shop will run out of potions. It just will. And you need them to start regenerating, as you need the cooldown to be coming off your Blademaster. Same with mana pots. You'll see very often Hitman buy double potion of healing, double mana pot almost immediately. Not at the same time, but like very early into the push, because you need to use them. You need the sustain, which is why Heal Wave is just so much better than Hex or Wards. It's all about the sustain. And if towers do come up in this situation, which they didn't in this game because the defense was so one-sided, if towers did come up, the priority should be on canceling the towers earlier rather than later. Now, you don't want to let the towers get up. You have to cancel the towers. Ideally, you just cancel them right away. But again, that's what the sustain is about. We have enough meat where we can just cancel the towers and continue fighting. And what we can do is, if they start towering us, we can run in, cancel the towers, and then back up to our burrows. And if they run in and fight us within the range of our burrows, we're happy to do so, because they're going to run out of health, and we're going to have Heal Wave, we're going to have salves at our shop. And as long as there's not a bunch of towers coming up in range of our main, we're happy for them to just run into burrow range and us to just heal up in the back of our base. Right? Yeah, the speed scroll surround with the peons is cool. It reminds me of Grubby did a video on, you guys might remember this, when Grubby was doing his YouTube commentaries before who are the boys? The boys are the peons. The boys are the peons. Grubby did a YouTube series where he did commentaries on his old games, and there was the replay he did where TED, the Chinese undead player on Secret Valley, used to do the Lich Tower Rush, the Lich Fiend Tower Rush. And he was like, yeah, at this stage of the game, all I do is I just pull my peons and speed scroll surround the Lich to hold. And it's like, oh, great. Yeah, that's a great consistent way to defend this Tower Rush, Grubby. Thank you. I'll just be like you and just surround with peons with a speed scroll immediately, every time. Right? So I don't want to say that this was the key to Hitman's success, but it definitely is what made it so easy for Hitman to defend this game, was that surround. But he still did everything right up until that point, so he still would have been able to defend regardless of that nice surround. Right? Just made it a lot easier. Just made it a lot easier for him. All right. So that was replay 1. Put the music back on. We'll jump into replay 2, which again is going to be against Focus. Now, I do want to point out, Focus is extremely good in Orkmere, all right? So Focus is not the guy that's really bad at Orkmere that everyone just beats up on. Focus is very good at Orkmere. So both Hitman and Lin are going to be beating Focus, but just wanted to point that out. So this will be Lin against Focus on Northern Isles. We can now check it out. So here's Lin. The names are going to be a bit confusing. This is Lin, though. And then Focus is just going to be Focus. Focus is going to be the Farseer player in this case. And Lin is going to be... Lin's going to be the Blademaster player. 3 peons equal 1 grunt. Well, I don't know how the stats work out, but like the attack speed is also a factor, right? The attack speed, the armor type. Peons have medium armor, right? Grunts have heavy. Now 3 wisps. Those equal like a level 10 Blademaster. Alright, so nothing new, but remember, last Refuge was a map where we were able to skip our shop.
Work complete.
Northern Isles, we're not going to skip the shop. Right? So just little details that are map specific, which is what makes Orkmere relatively complicated. The creep routes are difficult to know all the details of.
Work complete.
We'll touch a little bit on the creep route from Lin here, and what he's maybe thinking about, and what he could possibly be up against. But first, we'll take a look at what his creep route is initially. And again, he's going to be doing this creep route, assuming that there's many different strategies he could be up against. He doesn't know if Focus is playing Blademaster. Focus could be playing Shadowhunter. He could be playing Farseer. He could be playing Farseer Immediate Harass, Farseer Creep level 3, Blade Creep level 3. He doesn't know. So this is going to be what he's going to do consistently, at least the majority of the time. Critical Strike first. You might be thinking, if he gets immediately harassed by a Farseer and he goes Critical Strike first, isn't that bad? Yeah, it would be a little bit annoying, but he is assuming Focus is not going to creep, or is not going to harass immediately, because harassing immediately is actually kind of bad with a Farseer. So he's just expecting Focus to just play the strongest possible strategy regardless of the opening hero, which is why he's comfortable with going crit first. Whereas if you're against an opponent that might be instant harassing you, it might be a little bit annoying to go Critical Strike first. But you can still make it work if you get instant harassed, having crit first. So he's going to creep level 2. And this is where it can get a little bit interesting. Now, level 2 is reached. Okay. So, on Northern Isles, typically, the bottom spawn, let's talk about Blademaster mirror first, okay? So if Lin's going a Blademaster, and we're assuming Focus is going to be playing Blademaster as well, what you would expect is both players to do the same creep route and be done at the same time. So right now the Blademaster is right here. So what's the Blademaster going to do next? Well, they're probably going to run up. They're going to buy Circlet and Dust. And then they're going to run here or here. Right? They're either going to steal your expansion, or they're going to steal your Murloc or creepjack you at your Murloc. Now, Lin, being on the top spawn, can't make it to the shop in time if Focus also has a Blademaster going there. So instead he's going to go to the marketplace and see if there's an item there. Maybe a Circlet there, maybe a Slippers of Agility. He's going to see what items are at the marketplace. So if you're bottom spawn, you go to the shop. If you're top spawn, you go to the marketplace. And then he can also do the same thing. He can run and steal the expansion creep. He can run and steal the Murloc. But there's also a world in which both players just creep level 3 right off the bat. You could creep this, and then you can creep this, and then you can come over here and creep this, which would be the fastest level 3 possible. You creep those two camps, and then you creep the Tuskars, you get level 3. Another creep route would be, you creep these two camps, and then you creep this Murloc, and then you creep the Expo, that's also level 3. And then there's the counter to all those, and then those are just Blademaster creep routes. Of course, there's Farseer creep routes, where the Farseer can creep this initially, and then they can creep this, and then they can creep like their Tuskars or their expansion or something. There's a lot of different creep routes, and there's a lot going on, and both players have no idea what their opponent is doing. So they're trying to counter all of these creep routes and find the best possible solution just by essentially metagaming each other. So let's see what Lin does. So it's going to be standard. He actually sees a wolf, so now he knows I'm probably up against a Farseer, but he's still going to go and get the items. And there's also a chance... There's a chance Lin didn't see the wolf as well. Now, you could argue the best play for him to do if he saw that wolf would be to immediately run here and start creeping this, or to creep this, and then to creep this, just to try to get level 3 as fast as possible. There's a chance he missed the wolf. There's also a chance that he's trying to counter something else. Just going to see the Murlocs are gone. Now again, you could say he could maybe go to the expansion and creep it right now. He sees these Murlocs are gone. He's going to run here and see the whole camp is gone. The Farseer should be pretty close to level 3 right now. Okay, he needs this green camp to get level 3, right? He needs this green camp. Oh.
Work complete.
Now he's going to run in here, and now he knows. Let's say he didn't see the wolf here. Let's say he didn't see the wolf at all. Now he knows it's a Farseer for sure, whereas before he didn't know if it was guaranteed going to be a Blademaster or not. So now he's going to run in, and just like Hitman before, he saw the Farseer, did a little bit of damage to the Farseer, but then thinks, shit, I need to get level 3. Because or else I'm going to lose the game if I don't get level 3. So look what Lyn does. Puts a little bit of damage on the Farseer. He's going to kill the shop. Thanks, Stuart Miller. He forces both wands of mana stealing, cancels the shop. He's gonna run away. Now, this could have gone better for Lyn. He could have already been level 3 here. Or if not, very, very close. So you could argue this is a slight mistake, and this is actually going to be the difference between how easily Hitman was able to defend in the first replay, and how actually it's going to be a little bit trickier for Lyn this game. But still, Lyn backs up. He sees, okay, it's Farseer. I'm behind on levels. I need to rush my level 3 now. Whereas before, if he had just simply crept this and then crept either the expansion or this Tuskars and got level 3 right away on his blade, he would have already had it and no issue. But in this case, he ran across, he didn't know what was going on, he was in the base for a little bit, and now he still needs to get level 3, so he thinks, okay, I need to take a risk. I need to take a risk. I know that the Farseer's in his base, and is most likely, let's double check, gonna be creeping this. So he knows he's got a little bit of time because he knows exactly what the Farseer is going to be creeping now. He crept this. He needs one more green camp to get 3. I know he's waiting for his shop to heal up the Farseer. So he knows he's got enough time. So this is a calculated risk. But it's being done because he needs to catch up on levels. He needs to get level 3 here. But again, nothing's changed. Shadowhunter, Spirit Lodge. Remember, just because we see that it's a Farseer doesn't mean we know for sure it's Farseer Firelord yet. So Lyn still doesn't know if he's going to be Tower Rush, but he still wants level 3 regardless against the Farseer. He has just enough time to eke out 3 of 5 creeps and get the item before the wolf comes and finds him. So he's actually not going to be able to get level 3. But it's worth noting that, yes, level 3 is very important, but also if you're able to get really good items, like say he came over here and got another Claws, you're pretty much level 3. You don't have level 2 Windwalk, but you're pretty much level 3 based on the items you have. But still, he would love to have level 3. Like, you could say this is definitely a mistake that Lyn does not have level 3 at this stage. But he's got a little bit of time still. He's got a little bit of time. Because remember, we're expecting to be pushed by a Firelord about the time our Shadowhunter comes out. Around the same time, we should see the Firelord, right? And if we don't see it around that time, we can probably guess that it's going to be a Shadowhunter. But still, Lyn is going to go double-check the tavern, because the Farseer will be buying it right now, and now he sees the Firelord. Now he sees it. He's going to buy some more items. He's compensating for the fact that he doesn't have level 3 by buying another Circlet. Now the blade is pretty spooky, despite not being level 3. Lyn actually gets brute strength before a 4th grunt, which again you could say is another mistake. Now, I don't want to say it definitely is a mistake, but I think Hitman would have built a 4th grunt here and had an easier time. Probably would have built a 4th grunt here instead of getting the brute strength, and he would have actually had a 4th grunt out in time. So those are 2 things that are not perfectly going our way. We don't have level 3 blade, and we don't have our 4th grunt. Burrowing up when there's units in range. Another little error, and Lyn didn't manage to buy a potion yet, or else he probably would have used a potion on this blade already, but he wasn't in range of his shop. Burrow falls. And that Burrow was able to fall because the blade just didn't have the health. He didn't have the potion yet. Now the boys are being called, though. And he finally gets level 3 on the blade. Buys potion, buys salves. Doesn't have a lot of gold currently. Maybe he started that upgrade before he saw the Fire Lord. Yeah, I think that was a possibility. But it's worth noting, I think Hitman just always gets the 4th grunt against Farseer. Because it's safer. And, you know, it's not like having the 4th grunt is bad. You creep faster. So I don't really think there's a bad reason, or a good reason, rather, to get brute strength before the 4th grunt. Because either you creep faster, or you're able to defend the Fire Lord easier. You could say it might delay your tier 3 tech, which we'll talk about later, but I don't think it's a bad reason to get that 4th grunt. Wait. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. English. And note, he's got to ignore the army and get these towers canceled. If these towers go up, this is how Lin could lose this game. Buys mana pot. Yeah, Lin's got enough burrows right now. He's got enough burrows. Because again, he's going to spend so much gold on potions, right? He's going to spend so much gold on potions. Because what's most important is he's keeping his blade in the fight as long as he can. That's the most important thing, because this is all of his damage right now. The peons and the grunts are just to hold him on.
We're under attack.
And see how much more difficult this is, because of those couple of small mistakes that we saw from Lin. It was like 2 small mistakes, right? But he's got level 2, he got Hex. He makes a crazy play, and he holds. And he manages to cancel the towers. Importantly, he ends up with no units, essentially. He's got like 1 shaman and these really low units. He ends up with like no units, but what's important here is he's got his heroes alive, and he's canceled the towers. His heroes are alive, and he's canceled the towers at the end of the day.
We're under attack.
No, same opponent, same essentially strategy from both Hitman and Lin, but Lin makes a couple of errors, and look how much more difficult it is for Lin to hold this. Look how much more difficult. Now, maybe Lin would have had an easier time if he was playing against, say, Farseer Shadowhunter, and maybe Hitman would have had a more difficult time against Farseer Shadowhunter, so maybe Lin was making a calculated risk by playing a little bit greedier. Would he have lost if the blade would have died? Yes, he would have. He would have. Unless he also was able to get the Farseer kill, which I'm not sure if he would have been able to. Oh wait, he did get the Farseer kill. Yeah, maybe he would have been fine if both first heroes died, but it would have still been a lot closer. But still, same follow-up. Does he have 3 shamans? He does, and he's going to the Adept. He's continuing to get grunts, and as soon as the Farseer leaves, as soon as the Fire Lord leaves, he knows at this point the only play for focus is to push again, because he cannot win in the late game. So I can creep safely back at home and try to eke out as much value as I can, and just prepare for the next push, because it's coming. Another error was he didn't actually pass this over the Magi, or did he? Okay, he passed it over to use the Clarity. Yeah, he had that over on the Shadowhunter in the meantime. Sends a peon because he knows, which is a cool little adjustment that Hitman did not do, because Hitman had those wards in the middle, remember? But he sends the peon to see, okay, when is he going to push me again? Because I know it's coming. I know it's coming. And just going to continue to build grunts. 3 shamans is about what he needs. In the late game, he would have about 4. But not really more than that. And, you know, this is starting to get a little bit desperate for focus at this point, because he's up against level 3 Shadowhunter. He's still waiting for his Farseer. He knows there's going to be like 4 or 5 grunts. Now, this is a little ambitious from Lin, but this is how comfortable he is with this position, having held that initial push. And he thought that focus in this situation was going to wait for the Farseer a bit longer, but he actually didn't. So I don't think this is a mistake. I think it was just Lin being super greedy. Which happens. Which happens.
Work complete.
Actually gonna save that grunt, which is pretty nice. Gonna force the embalm. And again, this Shadowhunter level 3 is just gonna carry him to victory. Because again, if they both just attack into each other, Lin is always going to win that exchange. Short of losing this Blademaster. But he's not going to. Again, making sure to cancel the towers right away. And the heroes are just going to carry. The heroes are just going to do everything, and GG is called. So, that's an interesting replay. Not because it was the perfect example of how to hold, but because we saw a couple of differences between Hitman and Lin. And look how tricky that was. That was pretty close. We know, like, if he lost his blade there and didn't make that crazy play, he might have lost there, Lin. He might have lost. Yeah, you can open Hex if you have a serious opportunity, but if you don't have a serious opportunity, you should always go heal wave. Yeah. When you're going to shave your head, I don't know. So let's talk about this, because it's very interesting. So probably let's say three big errors. So one, let's say he missed the wolf, so he didn't creep level 3. Let's give him that grain of salt, right? So didn't creep level 3 ASAP, so he's a little bit late on the level 3. He built brute strength before 4th grunt, right? And he didn't buy potion on blade right away. That was it. Yeah, serpents would be good, but let's remember what we're trying to do. We're trying to have enough sustain, have enough meat, be able to hold on long enough. Whereas the question is, do serpent wards give us more sustain in the fight and give us more DPS overall than heal wave would? Most likely not. Especially if our opponent is killing them right away with the headhunters. So those were the 3 mistakes. Were there any else that I missed? Any others that I missed? I don't think so. And he lost a burrow, but the reason he lost a burrow is because he had to back up and heal the blade because he didn't have a potion on the blade right away. He wasn't able to keep the blade in the fight. And another reason he wasn't able to keep the blade in the fight is because he had level 2 blade. You have more mana, you have more health, you have more armor, you have more damage, you have so many more things just based on having 1 extra level. And the items can compensate to a point, but level 3 is really an important part to have the blade be able to carry. He greedily crept the shop. That was part of him not creeping level 3 ASAP, right? Because he was trying to compensate for that time lost when he sort of ran around the map doing weird nothing and then canceled the shop, and then it was like, oh shit, he's level 3 and I'm still level 2 and he's about to push me. Yeah, creeping the market could be. Yeah, maybe creeping the market. But I really think at this skill level, the game was already over by the time he crept the market at this skill level. There's a chance at lower levels that maybe he gets creepjacked there and loses a bit too much and gets repushed and loses the game. But at this level, I don't think. I think he was being greedy because he was in such a good position. But still, yeah, that was definitely an error of judgment. It's little mistakes, and look how much more difficult it was than the Hitman game. Alright, so those are our first 2 replays, and that's just basically how you can hold this, the things you need to do, and the mistakes that are easy to make the small mistakes, let's say, that are easy to make that could make you think, what the hell am I doing wrong? How am I supposed to hold this? This is so broken. Because we see the difference between just a couple of small errors, inaccuracies, and Hitman playing it not perfect. Because I know if I say he played it perfectly, he'll probably message me later and be like, no, I made this error and this error and this error. Let's say he played it pretty well. And, you know, you see very often people chase around the Farseer the entire early game. Right? And then they try to, like, build a bestiary at tier 2 and only have 3 grunts, and then they're like, why can't I hold this? It's so broken. When they have a level 1 Blademaster and they go like Hex first and try to hero focus right away. Like, it's so broken, why can't I hold? It's all about these little adjustments that you have to make in order to hold this strategy, right? What we gleaned was Hitman number 1. I definitely think, like I said earlier, I think Hitman is at least top 3 Orc Mirror in the world. And maybe top 2. He might be. That's my opinion, but he's very good at Orkmir. He's very, very good at Orkmir. And he's proven it in tournaments, right? So I know you guys got 2 questions, so I'll let you guys ask them, and if you don't ask them, then I'll ask them myself. But what do you think the 2 major questions that one might have after watching these 2 replays is now? So anyone did Firelord first, then Farseer? I don't know what the big... Because the thing about going Firelord is it has 2 lava spawns. It has one right away, and then after you wait about 30-40 seconds, it has a second lava spawn. Whereas a Farseer has about infinite summons of wolves in most cases, because they have more than you can actually use, mana-wise. Whereas the Firelord doesn't really have that. Okay, what are the 2 questions? What are the 2 questions? Actually, these 2 questions are so important that I'm going to let you guys think about them, and we're going to take a 3-minute break. Right? What are the 2 questions that are missing from those 2 replays? I'll let you guys... We'll be right back. We'll be right back. Think about it. Think about it. All right, we're back. So I asked you guys, what are the 2 questions that you should have at this point? And someone in the chat, who was it? It was Tidehunters got one of them, which is somebody else also asked us earlier, which is what we're going to cover first. And the question is, how can she slap? Hello, Smile. GNL, how's it going? GG's the other day? No, it's not. How can she slap? It's, what if they just Farseer harass us immediately? Now, got him! Yeah. Should have pulled up a Farquad. So, now, I've said that immediately harassing with the Farseer is bad, which is why we're not going to see Focus or Lin or Hitman or... these people, we're not going to see these top orcs immediately harass with the Farseer level 1. They're not going to do it. But when I play ladder games, that happens to me all the time. When you guys play ladder games, I'm sure it happens to you all the time. So what are we supposed to do if they harass us immediately with a Farseer? And they don't creep level 3. Because even though creeping level 3 is better, what are we supposed to do? We, of course, it's going to be difficult for us to just power creep our blades to level 3 if they're harassing us right away. Why doesn't Lin buy a speed scroll at the start, though? That might just be a Northern Isles specific thing. There's 2 reasons, right? 1, you need the gold to buy items from the marketplace on Northern Isles. 2, you also need extra gold to get your second burrow on time, because if your second burrow isn't on time, there's much more opportunity for your opponent to cancel it. So you actually need to cut some corners to have enough gold to get your second burrow on time after your tech, and to buy items after at the marketplace or the shop. So I think Lin skips the speed scroll, even though it's a risk, to be able to, most importantly, have that burrow on time. Make sense? So that's the first question. What do they do if they harass with the Farseer right away? And then there's another question which somebody didn't answer, or somebody didn't ask yet, but we'll cover that in the 4th replay. But for now, let's just jump into the 3rd replay. So this isn't going to be the best performance, right? But it's going to be, we're going to watch Hitman deal with immediate Farseer harass. And it's pretty simple, actually. Why don't they build a war mill? Because, again, you're just it's all about having the meat. It's all about having the meat. We don't need upgrades. Upgrades are more... The thing about an upgrade is, if we get an attack upgrade, the earlier we get an attack upgrade and the longer the game goes for, the more value we get out of that. We think if we get an extra 2 damage from an attack upgrade, then the more my grunts attack throughout the game, the longer the game goes, the more health value, the more damage I've gotten out of that upgrade. Whereas when we're playing Farseer or Firelord, the game is very short. By definition, it's the cheese. So you actually get less value by not only you don't have the massive units you need early on to hold the cheese, but also the game isn't going to go for a long time, so you're not actually getting the maximum value out of those upgrades regardless. And you just need units, more than you need the War Mill. The War Mill plus an attack upgrade, that's 315 gold. That's a Shaman and a Grunt that you're getting tower rushed. Right? Now, if they get a bunch of towers up and you need to get a Demolisher out because you failed to cancel their towers, Yes, at one point you may have to do that, but we really want to avoid that at all costs. We want to avoid having to build demolishers and reinforce defense at all costs, right? Okay, replay 3 will be Hitman against Pink. Pinky? Is it Pinky or is it Pink? P1NKE. Ricky, is it Pinky or Pink? Who's an orc player? Chinese orc player. It'll be on Echo Isles. And he's going to instantly harass with the Farseer, and we're going to see how Hitman deals with it. Oh, I thought he was Chinese. Apparently he's not. I'm thinking of a different player. Oh, I'm thinking of the undead player, right? Yeah. I'm thinking of the undead player. My apologies to Pinky. Pinku. There's two players. Yeah, Dutch. Yeah. All right, so nothing's going to change, right? Because, again, going into these games, we don't know what our opponent is doing. So we have to counter the variety of strategies all at the same time because we're not going to peon scout. And as we pointed out at the beginning, there's plenty of different strategies. Oh, Victor! There's plenty of different strategies that we could do in the early game. Right? And as I said, this isn't going to be a perfect game by any regards, but it's just an example of what do we do if our opponent immediately harasses and why is it very bad to do.
Work complete.
But nothing's going to change in the early game, right? We're still going to do our initial creep route as if we were against the Blademaster. Nothing's going to change. Croatian. Is that Croatian flag? I'm not good with flags. Is that Croatia? Yes, exactly. And there we go. Hitman told someone that he thinks reinforced defenses might help, but it's not true. You need more units to hold that can easily kill those. Yeah, and they have summons that can easily kill the demos. Yeah, exactly. You just need units to hold. The big thing is just to have the meat, just to have the units. It's a Dutch flag? I'm getting two different opinions here. Two different opinions. Now, there's some different creep routes on Echo Isles. Let's just tag a couple of them, right? There's sometimes a Blademaster will try to cancel your second burrow. They'll harass after taking the green. Sometimes they'll take just the item and go and try and take the 12 o'clock. Sometimes they'll take the whole camp and then try to go to the 12 o'clock. All these sorts of things are going through Hitman's head at the beginning of the game. How do I counter these? How is he going to metagame me? What creep route should I do to counter his metagame? Stuff like that. So there's a lot going into the creep routes initially, but this is what he chose to do, right? But once we see the Farseer, of course, we know what to do. We know we just want to creep level 3. To be honest, never heard somebody say, answer a question on what a fact is, and then say, to be honest. All right. So, we're getting harassed by a Farseer. Now, the Farseer, don't panic, by the way. Just like in the first replay, don't panic. This Farseer, unless they make a massive mistake, they're always going to be able to cancel your second burrow. They're always going to be able to cancel your burrow, right? So don't worry. It's going to get canceled. They need to make a mistake. They need to do something horrible to not get this burrow, from my experience. Right, so don't worry. They're going to get the burrow. They're going to get the burrow. But what Hitman's going to do is he's going to come back every time the wolves are in range, he's going to fully burrow up 4 peons in here. Like I said earlier, we used to, in the past, worry about the economic damage, so we really try to not put as many peons in the burrow and try to instead defend with the Grunt and the Blademaster as much as we can. But in this case, Hitman's not too worried about his lumber economy, because a lot of the economy is just going to go into potions and grunts if we're dealing with a Farseer Firelord, and we don't need to build 2 tech buildings, because we're only going to go for a Spirit Lodge. So don't worry, he's going to fully burrow up against these wolves and defend with them as swiftly as he can. With the burrows. But don't worry, this burrow's also gonna get canceled. It's gonna get canceled. No matter what.
Our town is under attack.
And note, just look how much mana the Farseer has, right? He's got a lot of Summons of Wolves, so... Essentially, what we have to do is we have to defend as well as we can until our burrows are up, and then we're chilling, right? So what Hitman's going to do is he's just going to keep fully burrowing up until these burrows are safe. Until these burrows are safe, right? Note, he's leaving the grunt. These burrows are pretty much safe. He's going with the blade to continue creeping and to stack up the blade. He thinks, oh, at this stage, maybe I won't be able to get level 3 as smoothly as I might like to, but at least I can get some nice items. So he's going to creep to 12 o'clock, get level 2, and maybe even get another Claws of Attack or something. So it's still on his mind is I need to stack up this blade. I need to get level 3 if possible. Even though he's being harassed right now. Whereas in the past, we might be thinking, oh god, my economy. Oh god, I need to put damage on the Farseer. Hitman's not worried about it. He just simply leaves the grunt behind, burrows up fully, and just continues to creep with the blade.
Our town is under attack.
Very calm response. And what is Pink doing currently? He's just at 0 experience. He canceled the burrow once, and he's not really getting much else done, because the damage he's done to the lumber is not going to impact Hitman. It's not going to impact him. He buys Circlet and Gloves of Haste. Let's note that he messed up. There's a trick where after you creep this, you can wait for the attack from the trappers, and then you can salve in between the attacks. But I think he actually... I'm going to double check this, actually, because this is a little interesting point. I don't know. Was it nighttime by the time he started creeping this? I think it was. Let's check.
We're under attack. Our town is under attack.
All right. Was it nighttime? Yeah, okay. So it was nighttime. So there is a trick that stops this Ogre Magi from casting Bloodlust, but it only works in the daytime. Actually, if you Windwalk and you attack it from this square right here during daytime, it doesn't cast Bloodlust. But because it's nighttime, Hitman's unable to stop this guy from casting Bloodlust. And because of this, because he's now gotten this one trapper has Bloodlust on it, actually, this is way too much detail about this tiny thing, but it's just worth understanding. Now, this trapper has Bloodlust and this one doesn't, so their attacks actually aren't in sync. Whereas if they're not Bloodlusted, they would just attack at the same time. Attack. 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 Whereas now this guy's Bloodlusted, and this guy isn't, so now it's a attack. 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 Attack, right? And they're offset. So you're not actually unable to salve in between the attacks at the end of killing the Ogre Magi, because one's Bloodlusted and one isn't. And even if the other one gets Bloodlusted eventually, they're still going to be offset. So it's very difficult to salve in between the attacks, which is why Hitman actually messed up this particular trick. So if you're able to creep this in the daytime and do the trick to avoid the Bloodlust, then you have a much easier time healing up immediately after. Very small detail, but just, if you're wondering why Hitman made the mistake here, it's because he crept this during the daytime and this guy has Bloodlust. Now this guy does as well, but look at their attacks. Look, they're not attacking at the same time any longer. And now he's going to try to wait for the attacks from both of these guys, salve Windwalk before the next attack comes off. But he's going to mess it up, and this is why he's messing it up, because the attacks are not synced. See? He timed it with that, and then this guy attacked him, right? Is there a situation where sometimes we need to chase the Farseer instead of creeping our blade? Now, in this sort of a game, no, I would say there probably isn't. Yeah, I know, I said that, Hitman. I said that. That's why I restarted the replay and said, did he start it at nighttime or daytime? Yeah, I know. The only mistake was salving it all. Probably. Yeah, I know. I said that, Victor. I said that. Now, is there any time when it's worth it to chase the Farseer instead of creeping? Yeah, I was talking about the salve. Yeah, you fucked up the salve. I don't think... I mean, Hitman's in the chat. I don't think there's any time you would rather chase the Farseer than creep yourself. Like, even if the Farseer is taking a high-value camp, like if they're taking the shop or they're taking the marketplace, like, that would be the only argument you would have to chase around the Farseer as opposed to creeping yourself. But I don't think there is a time when you would prefer to chase the Farseer instead of creeping. You're at work? Well, did you hear my response? I covered everything. I covered it all, Victor. I covered it all. I covered it all. So Pink realizes there's nothing he can do because he didn't get the burrow canceled. The burrows are just going to kill the wolves right away. And he's going to come back in and note the Farseer. Let's look at the experience of the Farseer. Let's look at the experience. 0 experience. Whereas Focus in the past 2 replays, at this stage in the game, he was about to get level 3. So you think, is the damage that Pink has managed to do to Hitman this game more valuable than having level 3 Farseer on the push? Here's the answer. No, it's not. Which is why immediately harassing with a Farseer, if your opponent is executing everything well, is not worth it, which is why we don't see top Orc players. By top, I literally mean like Soin, Hitman, Lin, Fly, Focus. We don't see those guys immediately harass. We don't see those guys immediately harass. But it does still happen. It does still happen at, you know, not very top level. Which is why it's good to cover. It's good to cover, and it will happen to you, definitely, in lots of games. But this is the reason why it's not standard in top-level games, and this is how Hitman deals with it. Grubby creeps level 3. Grubby creeps level 3 Farseer.
We're under attack.
See, look, you know. And does the lumber matter? No, Hitman still has very close to enough lumber to get the Spirit Lodge and the Shadowhunter. He's going to have 98 when his Shadowhunter started, and it will just take 1 return of lumber from all the peons for him to have the Spirit Lodge and even Brute Strength. So, and Hitman's just going to continue creeping while Pink is harassing it. If Pink came here to harass him while he was creeping this, he simply buys the Shadow Priest, gets rid of the wolves, and then just he has a Speed Scroll get away if he needs to. This is entirely safe from Hitman. It's entirely safe. There's no risk.
Our town is under attack.
Yes, I bet Happy also creeps level 3 in Orc Mirror, guys. I bet you he also does. And now Hitman manages to get level 3 despite being harassed the whole time. And he does it because he wasn't afraid to leave his base. He wasn't afraid to take economic damage. He wasn't afraid to use his burrows. Most importantly, he wasn't afraid to use his burrows. No, I don't think Hitman's actually made a mistake this game. He had 1 misrallied peon earlier, and he accidentally used a salve. But what's funny is if he didn't waste that salve earlier, if he didn't waste the 1 salve here, when he salved up his blade and his grunt right here, he would have actually had 1 salve left over and been slot starved to pick up the talisman here. So using that 1 salve here, mistakenly earlier, actually helped him. Alright, so, you know, whatever. Now, the harass has done one thing, and that's that Hitman doesn't actually have a Spirit Lodge yet, and his Shadowhunter's a bit late. But this isn't because of the harass directly, it's because he bought gloves and a circlet before. He spent a lot of gold on these, which is why the Shadowhunter is late, but the Spirit Lodge is a bit late because of the lacking lumber. So the Spirit Lodge is a tiny bit late, but still he wouldn't have a Shaman by now regardless. And again, the Farseer has 0 experience as level 1, and the Blademaster's level 3. Oh, would he have not been able to pick the Scroll of the Beast either, eh? Oh, interesting. The man's going to need to buy a potion, but remember, he just pulls the boys. His Shadowhunter's on the way. Spirit Lodge isn't going to be necessary, but, you know, if he could get it up, it would be good. But for now, he needs the gold for potions anyway. And this is just level 3 against level 1. This is it. And you might be thinking, oh, Scroll of the Beast is insane here. Well, so would a greater heal, so would a greater invuln, so would a big mana. So the only bad item Hitman could get from that, similar to the last Refuge shop, is Wand of Mana Stealing. Right? So it's always going to be good to get those consumables. Notice he's just canceling the towers over and over again. The peons and the grunts they're dying, but they're trading, and that's all he needs. His blade's about to be level 4. And the Farseer's level 1. And GG is called. And that's just simply how you deal with the immediate Farseer harass. Now, it's difficult because you have to do a lot of multitasking, but the important thing is just to be confident, use your burrows, you know, as actively as you need to, And just remember, it doesn't matter if your lumber gets hurt a little bit. The priority should still be level 3 Blademaster. Now, what's the other question you guys might have? For this last replay, we're going to be watching Soin versus XiaoKai on Tidehunters. Confident I would lose regardless. Is that how that works? Yeah, true. It's very easy to lose. It's very easy to lose even in those situations, but the point is that the point of all these sort of analysis is not that we're going to be able to beat Pink in that situation, it's that we're going to be able to beat somebody equal skill to us in that situation. Which I'm confident you guys would be able to, regardless of what your skill is. Regardless of if you're better than both these players or worse than both of them. That's the goal, right? The goal is not to be able to beat Hitman, it's to be able to beat the dude you lost to on ladder yesterday that did this to you. Wish you understood this game. Well, it's definitely, if you don't play the game a lot, or you haven't played the game for a while, this is definitely going to be confusing, but, you know, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. What if the Farseer tries to stop the Blademaster from creeping? Well, he kind of was there, wasn't he? And notice how Hitman was taking camps that were kind of impossible for Pink to stop. He couldn't stop the 12 o'clock because he was totally out of position, and you can't even get in there without aggroing the creeps regardless. He couldn't stop the initial green camp, and then he couldn't stop the Merc camp because he had a priest, and he had a speed scroll. So yes, he might have been able to stop Hitman from creeping the whole camp, but it still would have been Blade level 2.6 to Farseer 0 experience, right? So he might be able to slow him down slightly, but a lot of these camps that Hitman is choosing to take is kind of unstoppable by just the Farseer himself. How much Warcraft do you play? I did take about 4 months off of playing, but recently I've been playing a little bit, like 5 games a day, which has actually been a lot of fun. God, I'm bad now. I was always bad, but particularly now, I'm very bad. Watching around a week now. Yeah, this is definitely very complicated for a weekend, for sure. Yeah, definitely very complicated, but that's, you know, it's all right. Keep learning, keep watching. How I actually learned this game was watching replay casts. Before I started playing ladder, I watched replay casts for about a year, like 6 months, 8 months, a year. I just watched lots and lots of games, and that's how I actually learned before I started playing. So this is a good way to learn the game. Although this might be a little bit complicated because we're talking about, like, you know, strategy and stuff and all the different build orders and creep routes and things like that. And, you know, I'm assuming that people have a certain level of understanding coming into these sort of episodes, but still, it's a good way to learn, and it's exactly how I learned. But yeah, just watching actual casts, like play-by-play, like, oh, and the Blademaster's going in for the critical strike, stuff we normally do on this channel, that's an actual good way to learn. Whereas this, when you're a little bit more advanced, would be maybe a decent way to learn as well. All right, so a very important question that no one asked was, what do you do next? We're talking all about Farseer Firelord as though that's the end of the road if they go Farseer. We were assuming this entire time, chat, that you're going to go Farseer and you 100% are going to go Firelord after that. But what if they just don't go Firelord? What if we commit to 4 Grunts, Spirit Lodge, Shadowhunter with Heal Wave, we get ready for a push, we creep level 3 Blade, we're ready for them to push us with a Firelord, we're ready at that 6-minute mark, we're ready for them to come, and they just don't. They just tech tier 3 and get a Shadowhunter. What's the follow-up? Because we don't want to be able to we don't want to just be blind countering cheese, you know, and that's why it's very important that when you figure out solutions to these sorts of problems, you know, what do I do against Tauren Chieftain first? Okay, what if they go Tauren Chieftain and then Tower Rush me? What if they go Tauren Chieftain and go Shadowhunter second? I don't know what I'm talking about, but you get the idea. We need to have a follow-up. And we need our counter to the Tower Rush to not put us behind when we're doing the follow-up. That's very important. We want to be able to counter all these cheeses, all these different strats, but we don't want to end up behind because we're countering them. We don't want to have to build 3 towers in our base to deal with a a tower rush and then them just not do it because we built 3 towers in our base, and instead they just expand, stuff like that, right? So what is the follow-up? Very important. And here's what the follow-up would be if it isn't Farseer Firelord. Instead, if it's just Farseer, into something else, into the late game. Here's Soin versus XiaoKai and Tidehunters. We should always be asking ourselves questions like this when we're dealing with particular cheeses, right? Is this the right player? No, here he is. So this is going to be a little bit confusing, but player 2 is Soin, and the other player with the Chinese name is XiaoKai, okay? So this is Soin, and down here, this is XiaoKai. But the XiaoKai is going to be the Farseer player, and Soin is going to be the Blademaster player, as Soin so often is. Well played and leave the game. If yeah, we just blindly counter Farseer Firelord from the start of the game, and then we just leave if they don't go for it. Even if we see a Blademaster, we just leave. Farseer Shadowrun screws me up more than those tower pushes. Yeah, it is the better strategy, foolish boy. It is the better strat. Definitely. It's the better strat because you still have map control in the mid game, but you can also follow it up into tier 3 and into the late game. You don't have to worry about ending the game right away. So we're still going to see all the same opening principles from Soin. A couple things are going to be different because, of course, we're against a real human being. We're not against a computer, so we have to... There's going to be some things that are, you know, not consistent throughout every replay, but he's going to pretty much follow the same principles of, I'm against a Farseer, this is what I have to do to prepare for the potential strategies. I always just quit when a matchup hasn't been covered in TheoryCraft. Wow. Probably losing a lot of matches then, because then even the matches that you're playing that were covered in TheoryCraft, I probably just told you a bunch of incorrect information. Ask the enemy to go Farseer and Tower Rush. Alright. Alright, alright. Again, this creep route would be something that Soin would do in every situation in Orkmere, right? I still don't know if for Orc it's better to creep this guy or to creep the Berserker first. He took a little bit of damage on his grunt, but I guess it's alright. Does CPU do Farseer Firelord Tower Rush? You could probably program it to do Farseer Firelord Tower Rush. It'd probably be one of the few strategies that you could actually program a computer to do. Because literally you just creep level 3 Farseer and then you push at the exact timing. You could probably... I mean, anyone listening, could you do that? Because I know you can script AIs in this game. Could someone do that for us? That'd be so perfect for practicing this stuff. Oh my god. It'd be incredible. This is XiaoKai. This is XiaoKai, the Orc opponent. So, Soin's idea for a creep route was he was going to creep this, and then he was going to creep the green camp, right? And then he was probably... let me think. What's the creep route? And then you creep the expansion, I'm quite sure. Yes, this is the creep route. You creep this camp, and then you creep the green camp, and then you creep the expansion, and then you take the consumable from here, and that's level 3. Right? That's the level 3 that I've seen. This is a new map for me. I'm not too up to speed on it, but I'm quite sure that's level 3. So first camp, second camp, third camp, level 3 just off this Ogre Magi, which gets you a nice consumable. Right, that's what he was going for, but he, of course, finds the Farseer stealing away his camps, which is a very common Farseer creep route. Creep this, then you're level 2 right off the bat. Then maybe by then you have a couple Headhunters, so you can take something like a shop or, you know, take something like this, right? So this is a good creep route for the Farseer while you're waiting for your Headhunters to come out. So Soin finds the Farseer, and he thinks, okay, I can kill a Headhunter. Again, we're against the computer. We're not against the computer, rather. XiaoKai is not a computer. He's a very good player. So he says, okay, maybe I can kill a Headhunter. I got Claws, I got Circlet. He bought the circlet from the shop. I'm going to kill a headhunter. Whereas when we saw Lin doing this, we thought maybe this would be a slight mistake because he's not going to be level 3 on time. But Soin's going to take a little bit of a risk, and he's going to get rewarded a bit for it. Now, you can talk about that in the chat, Okami. That's totally fine. I would recommend Elf for Undead. So he kills a headhunter, and then he's still just going to back away, and he thinks, how can I get level 3 now? How can I get a strong Blademaster? And, like, you think about where he is now, and he's only got one grunt out, and he's waiting on his second grunt, which just started producing, so he can't take anything big quite yet. Like, it would be very difficult for him to take, like, the whole expansion right now. It'd be doable, it would just take him a long time. It would be difficult for him to do, like, the shop right now. It'd be difficult for him to do, like, one of these camps with only one grunt. So he thinks, what can I do while I'm waiting for the second grunt to still get a strong blade and to still get some value? And I think this is the perfect choice here, given the position the Blademaster's in for Soin.
We're under attack.
He's just going to snag away this item and get an even stronger Blademaster. Because remember, if we can't get level 3 blade, we still want to be compensating with very nice items, because the blade is going to be the carry of our army. So this is just the perfect choice for Soin in this situation. Because he doesn't really have a huge opportunity to get a lot of items. And now he could even come up here and steal away another item. But the wolves find the grunt that was going towards there, so it might be a bit tricky. And again, he was going for the Expo, but he sees the Farseer, so he chases him around for a bit. But now I think it's time for Soin to go back and try to creep level 3 if possible. Now I think it's time for him to. He actually bought slippers. He's got a crazy Blademaster. He's got a crazy Blademaster. Let's check. The tech just finished. Let's check if anything back at home changes. Shadowhunter. He's going to get Spirit Lodge. He's waiting on his burrow. Which would mean that it's a bit late if he wanted a 4th grunt right away. So slight error there, but that's alright. And then we'll see a Spirit Lodge.
We're under attack.
And there's the Spirit Lodge.
We're under attack.
Now he's going to get some kills here. But still, you know, maybe him just creeping would have been better than all of this. He's going to respect his opponent's ability to block him. He only had one windwalk left, so he's only going to kill one. Because he respects his opponent. Whereas, you know, if I was playing against this guy, I would be like, I'm just going to kill all this guy's headhunters and windwalk out. Whereas someone thinks, okay, he's probably going to block and not allow me to get this kill. He snags another item. So again, although he's not prioritizing level 3, he's prioritizing crazy items, which is actually pretty easy to do. If you think about the map pool currently, you can do this on Northern Isles, Echo Isles, Tidehunters. They all have marketplaces and multiple claw drops. So there's 3 maps with marketplaces. You can get quite good items on Amazonia as well. So there's 4 maps, and then Concealed Hill, Last Refuge. What am I missing? Concealed Hill, Last Refuge. Those maps aren't too easy to get items on. What's the last map? Autumn Leaves. Autumn Leaves, yeah. That's definitely a difficult map to get claw drops on, because the developer purposely made it so it was difficult to get claw drops. There's only 2 claws each side on that map, right? Yeah, so those 3 maps, Last Refuge, Concealed Hill, Autumn Leaves, are difficult. So we have at least 4 of 7 maps in the pool where you can get a stacked blade. And it's very easy, actually, and very reliable. This is one of those maps. Right? So he's not level 3, but he's compensated. I mean, you could definitely say he's compensated for not having level 3, right? And at this stage, remember, by the time our Shadowhunter's out, if we haven't seen him pick up a Firelord, he's probably not going to. He's probably not going to. So Soin can be pretty confident that we're going to see a Shadowhunter. Because again, Tauren Chieftain is not played unless it's Farseer Mirror at the top level. From what I've seen, at least. I might be wrong in all cases, but from what I've seen. So let's see what the follow-up is. Let's see what the follow-up is. And, like, right now, we would definitely see a Firelord if we were going to, right? Like, there's no way we wouldn't see a Firelord with this army right now. So we're expecting, most likely, a Shadowhunter second and a Tier 3 tech. Someone gets his Spirit Lodge up. So let's see what the follow-up is. Of course, that Brute Strength. He replaced one of the grunts he lost earlier. He's just going to creep up the Storm. Because again, although we're not going to be against Farseer Firelord, Blade Shadow's still going to be better than Farseer Shadow in the late game because we're going to have Shamans. So he's going to get Shamans out. He's confident that he's not getting Farseer Firelord Tower Rushed. So he doesn't go for a War Mill. He doesn't go for a Bestiary. He's just going to tech Tier 3. What are we teching Tier 3 for? Well, we're going to see, but Bloodlust, of course. Orb on our Blademaster, and a Pit Lord third. That's it. Nothing else. Those are the three things. That's it. And again, we're just going to Grunt Shaman and just outvalue our opponent. That's going to be the follow-up. If we're not getting Tower Rushed, we just go Tier 3. Very early, by the way. This was a 33 supply Tier 3 tech. The safest timing, I would say, is about 40 supply, though. This was a very early Tier 3 tech. Soin could have waited a little bit longer to go, but he was very confident in this game.
We're under attack.
He was a very confident boy. Now this mid game is going to be a little bit wacky. Once we sort of see what's going on, I'll explain it, why this is happening. And this has to do with the map we're on. No, they're both level 2 because they've been very aggressive on each other. Now, we're going to see this go on for quite a while. They're just going to be sort of scouting each other and waiting to creep. And not creeping and, like, sort of trading fights and stuff. And the reason for this is... Can anyone tell me what the reason for this is? Why are they going to do this for a while? Why did they not just go... Why did they not, for instance, just run up to the top of the map and start creeping? If they both want to creep. Can anyone tell me?
We're under attack.
See, again, just tug of war. One player says creep and the other one. Buying time for Tier 3. They're both going Tier 3, though, if we could take a look. They're actually both going Tier 3.
We're under attack.
And they're both around the same Tier 3 tech. Deny more important? Not necessarily. They both want level 3 on their secondary heroes. The reason why this is happening... The one that leaves the creeps has the other one has more time, yeah, for sure. But the reason for this simply is, and this isn't, I don't know this for sure, but this is my best guess, is Tidehunters. If we look at it, let's just take a look at the map, right? Let's look at the bottom of the map. Big consumable, very creepable red camp, very doable, whereas this red camp is extremely difficult before you have a 50 supply army. Very difficult. This is easy. They could both creep this red right now. Another big camp, and another big camp. Whereas on the top, we can see expansion, item gone, expansion, very small, but the item's still there. We have this, which is a decently sized camp. Then we have 2 greens, and this red camp, which isn't doable. So the bottom of the map in the mid game is much more valuable to be creeping at than the top of the map. This red camp is the only difference maker, and if you can't creep the red camp, there's no value in going to the top as opposed to the bottom. So right now they're doing this tug of war because obviously they don't want to get creep jacked, but also neither player wants to succeed the bottom of the map and go to the top. Because then both players are going to be creeping very quickly. The Farseer player might be creeping faster because of Headhunters, but whoever leaves this is going to give up way more value to the other player. And that's why. And it's not like you're going to be able to get both labs by going to the top or anything. You're going to be able to get this, this, and the green most likely, whereas the other player is going to be able to get these 3 at minimum. And that's why. That's why we're seeing this tug of war.
We're under attack!
And that's just how the map is designed, which I actually quite like about this map. I think it's very interesting. It's not good in some matchups. It's kind of rough in a couple of them, but yeah, they're all on our YouTube channel, Back to Warcraft. They're all there. Soin manages to eke out a camp. Not the highest value, because you only get that item there, but the lightning shield, but still pretty nice. Okay, tier 3 is done. He's got a shaman queued up. He's gonna get bloodlust after this, but let's look at the army. Grunts, 3 shamans. He's getting a 5th grunt. He'll get a 4th shaman, so 4 shamans, 5 grunts. And he's gonna go get a 3rd hero. That is his army. Now, he may eventually get a bestiary, but really he's got a lot more to invest his gold into than others than that. He needs heal scrolls, he can get a 3rd hero, he still needs orb, he's going to need mana items on the Shadowhunter. Alchemist picked up is actually the standard choice for Shadowhunter 2nd. You go Farseer, Shadowhunter, Alchemist. And why is Pitlord good? It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just Halater is good against Berserkers, which we're now seeing. The Howl is going to minus the Berserkers by like 8 damage. And Cleave is also very good. So Pitlord is extremely valuable. Also, a Pitlord with Cleave and Bloodlust is very strong. Also, it's a good frontline tank, and remember, it's all about the meat. Pitlord's actually the tankiest hero you can get from the tavern. It's the tankiest hero you can get from here. It has more health than the Beastmaster. It has less health than the Alchemist? Oh no, it actually has more than the Alchemist. And if we notice, it has more armor than the Alchemist as well. Pitlord is the tankiest frontline hero you can get from the tavern. So there's so many reasons why Pitlord is the best choice here. So many reasons. And of course, there's no Dispel at all for the Howl. He's going Bestiary, which is standard, as opposed to going for Walkers, which Walkers would be a different strategy altogether if you had Walkers. That's the reason for the Pitlord. And they're still just fighting over this. Mid-game looks really weird, but, you know, this is still for the same reason I pointed out earlier. One player leaves, the other player gets way more creeps. And look, this is a red camp. Look how easy it is to creep. By the way, Mana Stone was picked up. And a TP Force because there's just so much focus fire there. And 1 grunt falls for a Headhunter and a TP. But now Bloodlust is about to finish. He waited to get the 4th Shaman because he wanted Bloodlust ASAP, and he's just going to keep pulling grunts. Do you see a War Mill? Have you seen a War Mill in any of these games? Have you seen a Bestiary in any of these games? No. Thanks, Bout. Appreciate you, man. And now he who wins the first fight gets a lot of value out of these creep camps. Do we see, like, what we most likely see now from XiaoKai is him just taking the lab, saying, I'll just give up the bottom of the map now. But he might also be trying to contest for this. Let's take a look at it. He's actually running across. This is very interesting. Now, I don't remember this part of the replay, but what's really cool about XiaoKai's decision here to go straight across the map is it ties in exactly, and this is more Tidehunters like theory than it is Orkmere, right? But it's still cool. So he realizes, okay, I TP'd away, Soin's going to be able to take the remainder of the bottom of the map. How can I equalize some of the value he's going to get by getting this other consumable? Well, I'll run over with the timing I'm given when he's here. I'll take his lab, and then I'll run back and take my lab, and at least I can equalize a little bit. I think that's what he's doing. Now, I don't know if this is for sure, but if it is, that's actually a really cool idea. Because he knows there's no way Soin's going to not creep the remainder of the bottom of the map, now that he's been given it. So this is actually a good way to equalize the creeps, is to run straight across after the TP and take this. Let's see if he actually does that. Let's see if he does that. Oh. And Soin, is Soin actually aware of this? This is crazy. I don't know what's, because obviously, like, this would obviously be the next camp that Soin would want to creep. Is he aware of this? Maybe he wants heal scrolls invuln? I'm not sure. Maybe he wants to fight? I don't know. Maybe he's just aware. Maybe he's just very aware. Now this is of course a different sort of timing. We're not talking about this today. This is a tier 3 tower rush timing, which is pretty common if you see Farseer Shadowhunter. Pretty common. And I suppose that's why Soin was aware that he had to go back and couldn't creep the bottom of the map. But let's just look, just look how much stronger Soin's army is at this stage. He's got Bloodlust, he's got a Pit Lord level 2, he's got a greater heal, his blade is insane. And yes, Berserkers are good, but look how much the Howl is going to -8 damage off these suckers. Boom. Maybe you thought I already did turtles? Yeah. I think more likely, and this is something I kind of forgot about, more likely he was aware that this timing was coming. Because this is a very common sort of tower push. So I think that's what Soin was getting ready for. And again, just like I'm gonna pause again actually. Just like when we pull peons, and we pull grunts and we buy potions, and we're just trying to outvalue our opponent's army, that's exactly what's happening right here. We just outvalue. We have more damage, they have less because of Howl of Terror. We have so much frontline and healing. Everything's really fast and bloodlusted. We're just outvaluing our opponent's army. So if we both attack into each other, I, as the Blademaster player, is always going to end up with more health and more units at the end of the day than you, the Farseer Headhunters player. That's the whole point of this army. And that's what we're seeing both when we stay at tier 2 and when we go to tier 3. Lucky little blade save, I will say. And again, runs back. Don't want to let the towers get up. And there's nothing crazy. It's actually a simpler army than we see against standard Night Elf. It's just grunts and shamans. Is there a weakness? Not really, because Wind Riders would not be a possibility, because we have a crazy blade with an Orb of Lightning and Bloodlust. Wind Riders would just melt. So there's not really a weakness to just going grunts and shamans here. Like, what could he build? He could go Taurens. He could go Taurens, which might be stronger than what we have, but again, you know, Taurens aren't that scary, actually. And if he were to go Taurens right now, Soin would just kill him. And Howl, a lot of value. -8 now because there's no Kodo. Whereas before it was -2 with the Kodo. And it's just, the blade is just going to kill everything at this point. Even if some grunts are falling, the blade is just going to clean up. Hey Armin, how's it going, bud? Thanks for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. I hope you defeated lots of Farseer Firelord players today, Armin. Because I assume you play Blade and Mirror. And we can see it's just a way better army for Soin. Just a way better army. And GG is called, and that's it. That's it. Just lost twice to Farseer. Well, you did raid after the last replay, but we got a little bit of talking still to do. And then don't worry, I'll give your faithful viewers to some one viewer Andy in the Warcraft section. So don't worry, it will be continued. It will be continued. So there's the follow-up. So we had two questions that we had asked after the first initial replays, right? The two questions were, well, what if he just straight harasses us with a Farseer? What if he just does that? Well, obviously, we know that that's a bad choice because no one at the top level does that. The top level meaning the top 5 orcs in the world. But we figured out what we're supposed to do. We just use our burrows very liberally. And we just creep behind it as much as we can and still try to get a stacked up Blademaster. The second question is, what is the follow-up? And that's what we just saw. There's the follow-up. You just tech tier 3 if you know you're not going to get Firelord all in. If you see the Shadowhunter or are aware of the timings that are around the Shadowhunter. Just tech tier 3, get Bloodlust, get a Pit Lord. And again, similar to what we do with the Peons and the Potions and the Grunts when we get initially Tower Rushed by a Farseer Firelord, against Farseer Shadowhunter Alchemist, we again just outvalue them because our army is just stronger at every point past the initial timings that they have. Right? And we just don't, we cut every corner. We don't worry about a War Mill. We don't worry about a Bestiary. We cut every corner that is not just getting the meat. And I keep saying that because that's actually literally how I think about it. You just get the meat and you hold the push. And that's how you defend Farseer Firelord with a Blademaster. Are there any questions? Nice little concise 2-hour, 15-minute episode. I think it's good. I like keeping them, you know, as much as I like doing the 4 or 5 hour episodes, I think keeping the analysis episodes to about 2.5 hours, I think it's good. I think it's good. Because, you know, we could do 6 more replays right now. Like, I have enough replays, but I don't know how much value that would get. Oh, you know, you guys want to see Hitman beat Grubby? How about that? What about this? I'll show you guys Hitman beating Grubby, and then I can put Grubby in the thumbnail of the YouTube video. How about that? Then I can put Grubby in the thumbnail, and I can clickbait everyone on YouTube. So, hi, YouTube. I'm going to clickbait you. Where is it? Let me Where is it? Let me find it. Don't worry, let me find it. Nobody panic. Come on, where are you? Where was it? Where did I put that replay? Well, Night Armin, thanks for the raid, bud. I don't know if I have the replay, I'll be honest with you guys. I had it somewhere. I had it somewhere. Oh, did I find it? Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay. Here's one last replay. Here's one last replay for the day. Okay, and then this way I can put Grubby in the thumbnail. All right, so here is, again, this is going to be Hitman against Grubby. This is going to be, if you guys prioritize, this is a relatively useful replay even to watch. If you guys prioritize level 3 Blademaster, a strong Blademaster early against Farseer, this is what you're going to be able to do. Hey, War 3 History with the 10 months. Appreciate you. How you doing, dude? This is what you're going to be able to do if you prioritize a strong Blademaster early against Farseer. All right? And this is why we prioritize a strong Blademaster early. Was this yesterday? I don't know. I got Hitman to send me a bunch of his replays from his folder, and this was one of them. And unfortunately, I was going to actually use it as a proper example, but the replay just simply wasn't long enough. So, and here's Grubby! Grubby going for Farseer Headhunters. Grubby!
Work complete.
And Grubby, of course, being the great player that he is, he's not going to harass immediately. He's going to creep level 3. He's going to creep level 3. All right, so let's see what we've learned. So, Hitman, of course, doesn't know if it's a Farseer or Blademaster going in, so he's got to get a creep route that works against both Blademaster and Farseer. Once he sees the Farseer, he thinks, okay, creep level 3. And even if he doesn't see the Farseer, creeping level 3 against Blademaster is still totally acceptable. If you have level 3 Blademaster and they have level 3 Blademaster, it all comes down to the items. And what creep route did you choose? So, it's alright. I was wondering if we could see those games look like if Farseer gets Firelord but Soul Burns Blade every time he shows up, but just focus fire the blade, eh? Interesting. So Blade's out, Farseer's out. Excuse me. And what the best creep route on leaves is for level 3, you just creep this bad boy, then you creep the shop, and then you creep generally your opponent's expansion. Is the most common way to creep. Every time the streamer doesn't know how to play versus BM. That's fair. He was probably planning to not Farseer Firelord here. He was probably planning on Farseer Shadowhunter.
Work complete.
He gets Claws of Attack. Uses Windwalk. He's going to go over the shop. Now, Hitman's expecting either the Farseer's doing a creep route right now similar to his, or the Blademaster's doing a creep route similar to his. Either way, he's probably expecting the Blademaster of his opponent to at least do the same route. You get Circlet, buys Dust even, because there was potential, of course, for Grubby to creep this and then run straight to the other shop. It wouldn't be the best creep route, but it would be a nice little counter if it was Blade against Blade. So again, he's covering all of his options for the possibility of a different strategy, because we can't just blindly counter one strat.
Work complete.
Another Circlet. And then this would be the common level 3 creep route. And something's going to change a little bit here, but notice how Hitman adjusts to what happens right now. The expansion's gone. Hitman realizes I still just need to get level 3. So I'm just going to creep my expansion. And also, it's worth noting that, like, if Grubby were going for a Blademaster, he would have done the same creep route because he wants the items from these camps. Whereas if he's going for a Farseer, he just wants to get level 3 as fast as possible in the Farseer. So he's going to take this, and then this might be the second possibility, and then maybe go to the shop third. Because it would be a little bit quicker. Right, so Hitman might have a good idea that it is Farseer now, in which case he's just going to go back and get his level 3. Because it would be a little bit of an inefficient creep route from Grubby if he was playing Blademaster himself. He's going to get level 3, and then, of course, when he's level 3, he wants to look for the Farseer that he's assuming it will be by now. There's level 3, and now we got to find the Farseer. And we're assuming he's taking his shop because that's the most obvious place for him to creep after the expansion. And what do you know? We find the Headhunter. What do you know? We find it. Grubby was trying to hide the Headhunters, which would have been a nice play. He actually would have been able to hide them and go in for like a Spirit Lodge cancel or Burrow cancel. It was a good attempt on a play, but Hitman had the perfectly timed scout. Because he's covered all of his bases with where his blade goes after he gets level 3, based on the timing. And this blade is absolutely insane. And no chance for a Spirit Lodge cancel. And the Headhunters are going to be chased around. And he's probably going to lose 2-3 more Headhunters right here. And GG's called. The blade's just simply too strong. Simply too strong. And that can definitely happen. All you need to do is ensure that you get good items, you get level 3, and you find the Farseer. Very important. You have to find the Farseer after you get level 3. So there's a little bonus replay for you guys. It's not overly insightful, but, you know. Shout out to Grubby. Of course, Grubby hasn't been playing a lot recently, so it's totally fine. I mean, totally fine. GG's out there. It probably was GG anyway, and so, you know, he hasn't been practicing a lot, so. Hold on, Grubby was the one with the BM. Yeah, let's say that. Let's say that. He was lucky on items, though? Yeah, for sure, he was. He was. Especially on a map like Autumn Leaves. Absolutely. Pretend Grubby versus Remo next. I didn't see that one. So that's it. There was a little bonus replay. Have a little fun with it. There's also a replay I have of Hitman beating Fly really quickly too. Here, I'll just to make everyone feel better about Grubby. Just to make everyone feel a bit better about Grubby, here's Hitman against Fly at 16 times speed, okay? Okay, here's Fly. Here's Hitman. Just to make everyone feel a bit better, okay? Okay, Hitman gonna do the melee lightning shield creep. If you don't know this trick, you should know it. Perfectly crapped. Absolutely perfectly crapped. Again, just creeping level 3. Doesn't know it's a Farseer yet. sees the Farseer, gets the last hit, steals away the circlets, kills a grunt, gets level 3. Farseer level 2, he's level 3. Fly is absolutely screwed in this game. Steals the Murloc.
A player's force
Goes back.
under attack.
Wants to heal up. Gets a clarity even. Farseer takes a lot of damage because he didn't have a set of wolves because Hitman killed the set of wolves. Finds the Farseer, forces the TP. Grunts go into the base. Blade runs in. Kills the Farseer. Gets out with his last Windwalk. Even kills a Headhunter. Oh, no, he doesn't. Yeah, he does kill that Headhunter. Does this look more or less one-sided than him against Grubby earlier? Because this is Fly, so okay? Just to make everyone feel better, okay? Shadowhunter comes out. He goes Hex because this is an opportunity for him to do serious damage with the Hex. Kills all the Headhunters. Heals up. He lost one grunt to a surround earlier. Finally level 3 Farseer, but the blade is 4.1. Back at home, Spirit Lodge, Grunts. Do they have Brute Strength? They do have Brute Strength after the 4th Grunt. 3rd Shaman, then Adept, just like we've seen before. Burrows up. Buys a potion. Doesn't have Heal Wave yet. Gets level 2. Clarity up. Peons have been in the burrow the whole time attacking, which is why they were not pulled. Blademaster continues to kill everything. And at this stage, this is the stage where Hitman's thinking, okay, all I have to do is wait for the push. Similar to what we saw Focus do with the Walkers, now Fly is doing instead with Kodos on Last Refuge. He did it with Walkers. Shadowhunter continues to creep with the timing he was given. Gets level 3. Blade is almost level 5. Gonna get level 5 very soon. And there's boom goes the dynamite and GG. Okay, does that cleanse everyone's palate for the Grubby game? All right, there's Hitman against Fly. Okay, that's it. That's all the bonus replays I got for you. Okay, that's it. That's it. All right, if there's any questions, I'll answer them. Of course, shout out to the sponsor CORSAIR. You can use coupon code Back to Warcraft for 10% off at checkout. ! CORSAIR in the chat if you want to check them out. Support the people that support us. They're also in the description of the YouTube video. And of course, shout out to the patrons. Let me get the list. Can we watch another Cleanse Fly getting destroyed? Yeah, let's watch just like a 2-hour-long game where it's perfectly balanced and it comes down to one peon attacking one peon, and the one peon that lives is left with 1 health to cleanse. And of course, our patrons, the €500 Golden Goat patron, Kenobi Quakes, appreciate you as always, man. Thank you so much. Our €50 Midas tier patrons, Toxie, Grinchy, JGats123, and Padroot, Save Orcas, Scription, and Teggy, and our €25 Profit tier patrons, Burning Blades and Don Delare. Thank you guys so much, and thank you guys for watching. This is a fun episode yet again. All right, we're having a good time with these shows now. We're having a good time. All right, we're having a good time. No show next week. This concludes the end of Season 1 of TheoryCraft. Thank you guys for being with me for 7 months. 7 months. 7 months of shows. 7 months of shows. Consistency is key, all right? Consistency is key. We're trying to get to 100. That's the goal. If I can do 100 of these, I think I'm happy, all right? I think 100. So we're a quarter way through. I go TC second with Blade and have a lot of success with Headhunters. Why wouldn't this work at a pro level? Well, because TC on level 1 just isn't as valuable as Shadowhunter on level 1 with Heal Wave if you're going to get all in. Now, I think TC second, if it is a macro game, is actually not too bad. This is something I've experimented with in the past. But against specifically Farseer Firelord, I don't think it would work just simply because of the low level. Right? Because of the low level on the hero. Anything else before we finish up for the day? Oh, what'd you say? I guess because Blade as a hyper carry, support is more efficient with him. Oh, is that were you talking about the Torn Chieftain? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need something to support the Blade because the whole idea of the early game is to stack up the Blade. The whole idea of the Shadowhunter as opposed to the TC is to support that stacked Blade as much as the Shadowhunter can. Right? Whereas the TC, the point of him is to almost carry in his own regard. Which he can in the late game, but the Blademaster is going to be really the carry. What's next on the show? Well, no episode next week, but the first Thursday of August will be Undead Day. Yeah, it'll be Undead Day. And then after that, we'll have Community Replay Review the second week. Third week, we'll have Night Elf Day. And then maybe we'll do an interview next month. I'm not going to do the interviews every month. I'm just sort of going to do them as I think of guests and as guests are available sort of thing. So I'm not going to force myself to sort of do them every month. Just whenever there's, someone we can talk to, right? All right, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you. And I'll see you tomorrow for Skill Cup. It'll either be me and Remo, or me. It'll be one combination of those three. So we'll see you there. Have a good rest of your Thursday. Bye.